Chapter 10-11. As soon as Ning Fan heard that there were more than 100 soul warriors in front of him and all of them were soul cultivators, he immediately stopped underestimating them. In the cultivation world, cultivating one's primordial spirit was regarded as the orthodox way. Body refinement was considered as an unorthodox method while soul cultivation was completely different. The reason why the demon race was regarded as a different race was because they cultivated their soul. However, these people in front of him specialized in cultivating their medicine soul. In this aspect, they were even more different than the demon race. However, he could not underestimate them just because of this, even if their cultivation bases were just at the level of Du Zhen and Shi Kong. Ning Fan could sense the immense soul power contained within the bodies of these soul warriors. Almost every one of them had attained the 9th Revolution Gold Core Realm Medicine Soul. Of course, it did not mean that all of them were Gold Core Realm Pill Refinement Masters. Even though their medicine souls were strong, they were forcefully enhanced through special methods. Thus, they had a huge flaw. They could only be used in battles to display the soul skills of their battle souls. They could not be used to concoct pills or identify spiritual herbs. Hand over Chu Lai and Duo Lan. Otherwise, die. The hundreds of soul warriors shouted at the same time. All of a sudden, the soul power of heaven and earth surged. Their aura force did not move the wind or the clouds. It was not earth-shattering, but it directly struck everyone's soul. Its power was comparable to the roar of an immortal venerable. How could Duo Lan and the surviving cultivators withstand such an aura force? All of them coughed out blood under the pressure. The difference in their strength was just too huge. Ning Fan was the only one who remained calm. He did not care about the threats from the soul warriors. He raised his hands slightly and calmly suppressed the ancient aura force. Then, he said to the people behind him. All of you hide here. I will handle everything here alone. As soon as he finished speaking, he drew a line on the ground. A golden line instantly appeared on the ground. That golden line was like a swimming snake. It moved along with Ning Fan's finger and circled around the area, forming a giant circle. All the surviving cultivators behind Ning Fan were trapped inside the circle. It might seem slow, but in reality, it only took the blink of an eye. The golden circle had taken shape. All of a sudden, it caused the great momentum of heaven and earth to change. It resonated with the heavens and drew the earth as its momentum, turning it into an earth elemental defensive grand formation. If one were to take a closer look, they would realize that the earth elemental grand formation was extremely similar to the formations in many ancient sacred domain cultivators' abodes. It was obvious that Ning Fan had imitated it after observing it for many times. Under the control of the soul warriors, the flame souls of broken thoughts wanted to charge into the golden circle and capture Duo Lan. However, they were blocked by the vast power of the array. Even with the cultivation of the flame souls of broken thoughts, they could not step into the golden circle. That greatly surprised Duo Lan. She did not expect that Ning Fan would risk a conflict with the Triflame guards to protect her. Oh. This person actually did not rely on any external objects to set up the formation. Instead, he pointed to the ground to form the formation. Furthermore, the formation that he set up is extremely powerful. From this, it seems that this person's comprehension towards the general trend has already reached a certain level. After all, in the entire Great Desolate Continent, not every single immortal sovereign from the ancient times is able to form a formation by pointing to the ground. The white-haired robust man said solemnly. Ning Fan's action of instructing Lu Li to form the formation had also caused a lot of exclamations on the ground. However, Ning Fan turned a blind eye to those exclamations. He only ordered everyone to keep a close watch on the formation and maintain its operation. After all, this formation was not specially set up by Ning Fan. Instead, it was set up casually by Ning Fan. First of all, it lacked the support of the Tao crystals. Now, it needed the magic power of the group of cultivators to sustain it. Besides, although the process of setting up the formation seemed heaven-defying, there were actually a lot of flaws. The difficulty of setting up the formation was also extremely high and the power of the formation would be greatly reduced. If it wasn't for the fact that Ning Fan had grasped the secret of the word force, he would certainly not be able to do it with his current cultivation base. If he wasn't pressed for time, he wouldn't have used such an unconventional method. When those soul warriors saw that Ning Fan not only refused to hand her over but also set up a grand formation to protect Duo Lan, each of their faces turned gloomy and their killing intent surged. If you don't hand him over, then I'll kill you as well. Soul art, movement like seal. Hundreds of battle soul masters cast their techniques at the same time. Instantly, a shackling soul power was sealed on Ning Fan's body. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. He felt as if his feet were filled with lead as he was sealed by everyone's soul power. He could not even move an inch. This was also because his cultivation was limited, which was why he couldn't move. However, according to his estimations, even if his cultivation was still there, with his strength that was comparable to the immortal Exalt's, his speed would still be greatly affected by this powerful soul power. Soul art, sealed thoughts. The spirit sense of Ning Fan's rain technique, which had always been successful, was actually sealed, making it hard for him to spread it out of his sea of consciousness. Soul art, extinguish fire. The 12 darkness devil flame in his body actually showed signs of extinguishing. Soul art, extreme darkness. The scenery in front of him became darker and darker. Gradually, he lost his sight. Everything happened in an instant. As the hundreds of battle soul masters cast their techniques at the same time, Ning Fan's body was inflicted with nearly 100 negative effects. Before he could even exchange blows with these battle soul masters, he had already lost his ability to move. His spirit sense and the circulation of his magic power were unprecedentedly stagnant. His resistance to the 5 elements was greatly weakened. Every few breaths, he would be attacked by an illusion technique. It was definitely Ning Fan's first time experiencing such a strange battle ever since he started cultivating the Tao. As soon as they exchanged blows, he was completely suppressed and had no way to fight back. Moreover, there were hundreds of soul skills of the battle's soul masters that carried great destructive power blasting towards Ning Fan. Ning Fan could not see the enemies in all directions. His vision had already been sealed and he could not hear any sound. However, the constant chills that came from his back reminded him that after the enemies inflicted the negative effects on him, they started to attack him. If he stood still and did not move, he would only become a target and be killed by this group of enemies who did not have a strong cultivation base but had extremely strong soul power. Ning Fan secretly activated the God Exterminating Shield in his body and turned the golden light around his body to the maximum. Even though he could not move, under the protection of the golden light, he was like a big tree in the wind. Even though he did not move, he was not harmed at all. What kind of golden light is this? Such a defense. Is it possible for a restricted immortal venerable to display? The white-haired muscular man who was underground frowned. The soul skills of the battle soul masters were at least as powerful as the thought-breaking strike. Under the joint attack of 100 of them, even immortal venerables in the ancient times would not dare to take it head-on. However, Ning Fan remained invincible with just the golden light around his body despite being inflicted with various negative effects. This caused the group of battle soul masters to be astonished. Ning Fan also realized that after activating the golden light, not only did he defend himself from the attacks of the enemies, but the negative effects that were inflicted on him also lost their effects bit by bit. His line of sight gradually returned. His divine consciousness gradually returned to normal. His footsteps no longer felt heavy. All the reduced attributes were restored. So that was how it was. Ning Fan had found a way to defend against the soul fusion technique. The prerequisite for the soul fusion technique to harm others was that one had to attach their own soul power to the other person. If the other person's soul power was strong enough, it would be enough to directly erase some of the harmful effects on the body. If the other party had a special defensive method, it would be enough to isolate the negative soul power on their body. Ning Fan's medicine soul was not strong enough. Fortunately, he had the God Exterminating Shield, which was a heaven-opening divine tool. It was not difficult for him to defend against the soul fusion technique of a group of thought fragmentation realm experts. However, this meant that he had to constantly activate his golden light protection when facing these battle soul masters. He couldn't afford to be careless for even a moment. Duo Lan and the others were protected by the grand formation that he had set up. As long as they worked hard to maintain the formation, their lives would not be in danger for the time being. As for the other cultivators who were in trouble on the grassland, Ning Fan was too lazy to save them. After activating the protective golden light around his body, he directly rushed towards the 100 or so soul warriors. Since he had suffered some minor losses just now, he naturally wanted to get back at them. There was a reason why these battle soul masters were in formation and did not dare to split up. With Ning Fan's intelligence, he could easily see through the crux of the matter. Even though these people had strong soul power, they were just a group of Du Zhen and Shi Kong Shi at the end of the day. Theoretically, each of them could display a powerful soul skill that was comparable to the thought fragmentation strike. Their offensive power was impeccable and they were strong enough to deter immortal venerables from the ancient times. However, their defensive power was not high and their speed was not fast either. If they are alone, it would be extremely difficult for them to protect themselves. That was why they gathered in a group. If their enemies get close to them, they would also be in danger. Any random Shi Kong Shi technique would be enough to take away one of their lives. That was why these people would keep a distance from each other and cautiously avoid getting close to their enemies. At this moment, when they saw Ning Fan rushing towards them from the front, all the battle soul masters were shocked. Each of them used their soul skills to block him. However, how could they stop Ning Fan, who was protected by the golden light? Ning Fan's ancient devil physical body was already extremely strong in the first place. Now that he had the protection of the golden light, he did not even bother to dodge the incoming divine abilities. Instead, he directly rushed towards them in a barbaric manner. He used his strength to break through the divine abilities that were flying towards him and broke through the formation of the battle soul masters with ease. With a wave of his devil palm, a battle soul master was directly slapped to death. With a point of his devil finger, another battle soul master was killed. Then, he controlled the ocean of 30 million swords and the flying swords rained down like a pear blossom rainstorm, causing another large number of battle soul masters to die. Killing these battle soul masters was as easy as killing Junior Du Zhen. In just less than 10 breaths of time, more than 40 battle soul masters had already died in Ning Fan's hands. The remaining battle soul masters were horrified. They quickly retreated and kept shouting strange words that Ning Fan could not understand. As a result, the fire souls that were besieging the formation immediately gave up the idea of attacking the formation. Instead, they surrounded Ning Fan to kill him. Why would Ning Fan be afraid of these flame souls of broken thoughts? When the 30 million flying swords swept across the area, many early and mid-stage thought fragmentation realm fire souls lost their lives. Even those half-step eternal ancient realm fire souls had to retreat slightly instinctively when they saw the scariness of the ocean of 30 million swords. They did not dare to rush into it head-on. Once they are caught in it, even if they did not die, they would at least suffer some injuries. In terms of defense, Ning Fan's magic power was abundant. He was almost innately invincible. He even managed to block the immortal King Realm Fire Bird that day. Why would he be afraid of these battle soul masters and fire souls who were comparable to the flame souls of broken thoughts? In terms of offense, Ning Fan's 30 million flying swords were almost an invincible method to these flame souls. Even if it is used in a battle between immortal venerables, it was enough to make many immortal venerables tremble in fear. The white-haired muscular man who was underground could no longer sit still. It was fine if it was just the fire souls, but these battle soul masters were the elites among his subordinates. Judging from the current situation, as time goes by, most of them would be wiped out by Ning Fan. This was something he could not tolerate. I initially thought that this operation would be a surefire success. I didn't expect this person to be a hindrance. 100 Lily Stone Dragon, devour this person. The white-haired muscular man said viciously. What responded to the white-haired muscular man was an ancient beast's roar which sounded like both an ox and an elephant. Then, a massive creature rose continuously from the ground. A moment ago, it was still in the absolute darkness underground. In the next moment, it rushed to the surface of the ground and a massive head suddenly emerged from the ground. It was a head as large as a small city. It looked very similar to a pangolin. However, it was different from an ordinary pangolin. Its scales were greenish-gray in color and there was a pair of strange sharp horns on its head. There was a huge nose ring on its nose and its eyes could not be opened. It seemed to be a degeneration caused by living underground for a long time. Not good. It's a 100-lily stone dragon. Many cultivators who were lucky enough to survive exclaimed. However, before their exclamations could spread, they felt the sky turning dark and the earth turning dark. It turned out that even the ground had been devoured by the gigantic creature. With just a single bite, the gigantic creature had devoured the grassland within a radius of several tens of li, leaving a deep pit that was tens of thousands of zhang wide and tens of li wide. Then, it timidly drilled back into the ground. Be it Ning Fan, the group of battle soul cultivators, the countless fire souls, or even the cultivators who were hiding in the formation like Duo Lan, all of them were devoured. Even the 30 million flying swords that filled the sky and the 4 emperors Arhat Pine at the center of the Sea of Swords were completely devoured. Ning Fan's expression was a little shocked. It was not that he did not sense the gigantic creature rising from the ground. However, before he could react, he was already swallowed into the creature's stomach. He had to admit that the speed at which the creature moved from the ground to the surface was unimaginably fast. It was completely incongruous with its gigantic body size. Therefore, Ning Fan did not have the time to defend against it. It's over. We're dead for sure. The body of a 100-li stone dragon is extremely tough. Even an immortal king would find it hard to break out of its stomach and escape after being swallowed. They can only be trapped inside until they die. Only those with the status of Devil's Son or above can possess a 100-li stone dragon of the Stone Flame lineage. There must be a Devil's Son of the Stone Flame lineage hidden inside this stone dragon's stomach. This stone dragon came for Holy Maiden Chu Lai. Now that it has succeeded, it must be returning to the Stone Flame lineage. With the speed of this stone dragon, it will certainly return to the Stone Flame lineage in less than 3 days. Are we going to be captured and brought back to the Stone Flame lineage? If it's just capturing it alive, it might not necessarily be a bad thing. At least, we still have the possibility of defecting to the Stone Flame lineage and keeping our lives. I'm just afraid that the Devil's Son will look down on us and directly kill us on our way back. Some of the cultivators of the southern border saw that the situation was hopeless and they even had the thought of defecting to the Stone Flame lineage. 3 flame guards were not allowed to enter and leave the ominous domain freely. It was a rule set by the saint before his death. However, there were 2 types of 3 flame guards that could enter and leave the ominous domain freely. The first type was the minority of cultivators who had passed the Flame Ancestors trial, and had the possibility to enter and leave the ominous domain freely. The other type was not the bloodline of the 3 flame guards but the cultivators of the Great Bay Grassland. However, they had betrayed the Great Bay Grassland and joined the Tri-Flames. These people were naturally not restricted by the rules of the ominous domain and could enter and leave the ominous domain freely. There was no lack of conflicts and killings between the 3 flame guards and the Great Bay Grassland. Cultivators of the Great Bay Grassland would often be captured alive by the 3 flame lineage. Among those who were captured alive, some of the more talented cultivators would be recruited by the 3 flame lineage. As long as they betrayed the 3 flame lineage, they would be able to keep their lives. However, one needed to be qualified to betray the 3 flame lineage. At least among the cultivators here, there were only a few who had the qualifications to be recruited by the 3 flame lineage. I can't believe that I would be captured by the Stone Flame for the second time in my life. Xian Yu Chun closed his eyes unwillingly. He would rather die than betray the Tri-Flames because there was a blood feud between him and the Tri-Flames. His mother had died in the hands of the Tri-Flames. I can't escape anymore. Duo Lan's face turned pale. She knew that if the other party came for that secret, she would still be killed even if she confesses everything. After all, this matter was of great importance. The fewer people who know about it, the better. Where did those Fire Soul Realm and Battle Soul Realm cultivators go? The 4 Emperor's Arhat Pines are also gone. Ning Fan did not care about the various expressions of the crowd. Instead, he frowned and observed his surroundings. They were inside the stomach of the 100-Li stone dragon. With its gigantic body, its interior was naturally extremely spacious. Ning Fan and the others were swallowed together with the Battle Soul Realm cultivators. However, other than them, no one else could see where the Battle Soul Realm cultivators were. It seemed like there was a difference in how the 100-Li stone dragon swallowed people. Perhaps when it swallowed those people, it directly teleported them to another place. This also explained why the 4 Emperor's Arhat Pines had disappeared. Perhaps his 30 million flying swords and the 4 Emperor's Arhat Pines had been forcefully taken away by someone the moment they were swallowed into the stomach of the stone dragon. The 100-Li stone dragon had a great restraining effect on spirit sense. In its stomach, Ning Fan actually could not spread out his spirit sense freely. Once he does so, his spirit sense would spontaneously combust without any fire and be burnt to ashes. In that case, Ning Fan could no longer search the world inside the stone dragon's stomach wantonly. All of a sudden, the sound of footsteps resounded from afar. Gradually, a group of people walked out from the darkness. The leader of the group was a white-haired muscular man. His aura force was rather strong. His cultivation base had just reached the eternal ancient immortal realm. It seemed like he had just broken through to the eternal ancient immortal venerate realm not long ago. Behind the white-haired muscular man were more than 60 Battle Soul Realm cultivators. They were the survivors of Ning Fan's massacre. Each of them was staring at Ning Fan with eyes filled with hatred and fear. Further behind them were more than 130 thought-fragmented fire souls. Originally, there were 175 of them. Those that were not here were all killed by Ning Fan and turned into points for the combat test. These fire souls did not have high intelligence. However, when they looked at Ning Fan, their eyes were filled with instinctive fear. Ning Fan's gaze swept past the white-haired muscular man. When his gaze fell on the item in his hand, his eyes immediately turned grim. His 4 Emperor's Arhat Pine was currently being played with in the white-haired muscular man's hand without any damage. It seemed like it had been forcefully taken away by him. So it's him. The 7th devil son of the stone flame, Meng Zhen. As soon as the white-haired muscular man appeared, many cultivators of the southern border recognized him. Their faces were filled with despair. He was the devil son of the stone flame who had the cultivation base of an immortal venerate. With such a strong enemy surrounding them, they really did not have any hope of surviving while they were still trapped inside the stone dragon's stomach. Many of the cultivators of the southern border revealed expressions of fighting to the death. However, there were also some who had other thoughts. Nan Zhilong of the Wind's summoning tribe gritted his teeth and suddenly walked out from behind Ning Fan. He knelt in front of the white-haired muscular man. There were no less than 50 people who behaved like him. Among them were the White Ghost Mage of the White Ghost Tribe and the Black Mountain Mage of the Black Mountain Tribe. Many old monsters who had suppressed the Towerwood tribe before were actually among them. Well, it wasn't surprising. Those who always thought of stepping on others to rise to power were naturally not kind people. If such people were faced with death, it was reasonable for them to turn traitor. Oh, it's Lord Mengzhen. It's because our skills are inferior that we have fallen into Lord Mengzhen's hands. I beg Lord Mengzhen to let us go and allow us to join the Stone Flame clan and work for them. Ning Fan knitted his brows. He had always disliked those who begged for mercy on their knees. The white-haired muscular man who was called Mengzhen burst into laughter. After laughing, he suddenly struck with lightning speed. In the next moment, the physical bodies of the 50-plus people including Nan Zhilong exploded. All of them died tragically. Why don't you measure your own strength first before joining the Stone Flame? Meng Zhen's eyes glanced at the corpses on the ground and said disdainfully. Among the cultivators of the southern border, some of them were aghast. Some of them grieved for the death of their own kind while some of them were secretly delighted. Those who were delighted obviously could not bear to see Nan Zhilong and the others joining the enemy. Meng Zhen's eyes swept across Ning Fan and the others. His eyes only stopped on Xian Yuchun, Netherse Venerable Duo Lan and Xian Yuchun. Finally, his eyes fell on Ning Fan. He smiled coldly and waved the 4 emperors' Arhat pine in his hand. It's a good magic treasure. Unfortunately, the cultivation base of the person using it has been sealed. Otherwise, even if I brought 100 Li stone dragon with me, I wouldn't be able to take this treasure away so easily. His eyes carried 30% fear but 70% arrogance that came from his bones. Arrogance was because he was the dignified devil son of the Stone Flame clan while the other party was just an external cultivator. On the other hand, fear was because of the strange golden light that protected his body. In the river where Meng Zhen grew up, there were not many people who could make him feel fear. In Meng Zhen's understanding, Ning Fan was an immortal venerable whose cultivation base had been sealed. Due to the rules of the world, Ning Fan would never take the initiative to destroy the ring. However, if he were to push this person too far, it would be hard to say what he would do. If it was an ordinary immortal venerable, Meng Zhen would definitely not be afraid. If he dares to resist, he would just kill him. However, Ning Fan's golden light really made him unable to remain calm. Even with the restriction of his cultivation base, this person could still face hundreds of battle soul masters and hundreds of flame souls of broken thoughts unscathed. If this person destroys the ring and recovers to his peak state, perhaps even the 100 Li stone dragon would not be able to suppress him. According to the mission, he must search Chu Lai Duo Lan's memories and find that secret. After that, he would kill Duo Lan to silence him. However, it was obvious that Ning Fan wanted to protect Chu Lai Duo Lan. If that was the case, things would become difficult. In order to complete the mission, he must first find a way to take down Ning Fan. Do you want to live or die? Meng Zhen chanted an incantation in his heart. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed and he asked. Naturally, there was only Ning Fan who could make him, an immortal venerable, address him respectfully. So what if I want to die? So what if I want to live? Ning Fan asked with an expressionless face, but in his heart, he suddenly exclaimed in surprise and glanced at the soil beneath his feet. If you want to live, then hand over Chu Lai Duo Lan and obediently submit to the 3 flames. Become my stone flame slave. After I place a restriction on you, I can open the mouth of the stone dragon and let you live. I can even return this flying sword pine to you. If you want to die, this Meng can fulfill your wish right now. Even if you have that strange golden light protecting you, I'm quite confident in being able to kill you. Do you believe me or not? Meng Zhen was extremely conceited. He paused for a moment before he continued. Perhaps you think you can destroy the Xing ring and escape with your original cultivation. But you must know that if you really destroy the Xing ring, even if you have a 1 in 10,000 chance of escaping from me, you won't be able to escape the pursuit of the great humble celestial emperor. Those old things won't ask you why you destroyed the punishment ring, and they won't show any respect or understanding to an external cultivator like you. They will only chase you endlessly for this matter. With your strength, how can you survive the pursuit of the immortal emperors? Besides, I'm not afraid to tell you that you don't even have a 1 in 10,000 chance of escaping. Do you know that I've refined this 100 Li stone dragon's stomach with countless precious treasures? It can even trap an immortal king. Do you know where this 100 Li stone dragon is heading right now? It's not going to return to the stone flame directly. Instead, it's going to the Seal of 2 Realms first to return the broken thought fire soul that I borrowed. Tell me, isn't the Seal of 2 Realms scary? If you go there, no matter how strong you are, it'll be as easy as flipping my palm to kill you. As long as the stone dragon spits you into the Seal of 2 Realms, you might be able to survive. Meng Zhen smiled coldly. He wanted to see the fear in Ning Fan's eyes. Unfortunately, Ning Fan's expression was calm. It was because he did not know anything about the so-called Seal of 2 Realms. Naturally, he was not afraid. On the other hand, the expressions of the cultivators of the southern border changed drastically after hearing about the Seal of Two Realms. It seems like you don't know what the Seal of Two Realms is. Fine. I don't mind explaining it to you. Meng Zhen wanted to say something, but he suddenly noticed the mocking smile on Ning Fan's lips. His expression immediately turned gloomy. I didn't expect you to actually find out. You've made me waste my effort. Aren't you going to continue introducing the Seal of Two Realms? Ning Fan looked at Meng Zhen mockingly. Suddenly, his primordial spirit drilled out from the ground. At the same time, it brought along 18 skeletal puppets that were burning with flames. All of them had been killed by Ning Fan's primordial spirit. There were 9 big ones and 9 small ones. The big one was an adult female skeleton, while the small ones were the skeletons of young boys and girls. The mother-child puppet of one heart. A few cultivators of the southern border recognized the origin of the puppets. They exclaimed in surprise and looked at Meng Zhen with lingering fear. The mother-child puppet of one heart was an extremely sinister thing. If one was really sneak attacked by it, even an immortal revered throughout the ages would lose a layer of skin. Most of the people were still confused. They had no idea when Ning Fan's primordial spirit left his body and drilled into the ground. They also did not understand the hidden meaning in the conversation between Meng Zhen and Ning Fan. They also did not know why there were 18 skeletal puppets underground. Meng Zhen, however, did not intend to talk nonsense with Ning Fan anymore. He was not a person who liked to talk nonsense. The reason why he chatted with Ning Fan just now was to stall for time and divert Ning Fan's attention. Then, he would seize the opportunity to order the mother-child puppet to sneak under Ning Fan and launch a sneak attack. This place was located inside the belly of the stone dragon. Outsiders could not spread out their spirit sense. This gave Meng Zhen a chance to launch a sneak attack. Ning Fan's protective golden light was too strong. It made Meng Zhen fearful and decided to use some unorthodox methods. Unexpectedly, Ning Fan had seen through everything. His plan failed and he even lost the 18 puppets in vain. Humph. Since my plan failed, I will take your life with my own hands. Meng Zhen did not plan to let Ning Fan live from the beginning. Now that his plan was exposed, his killing intent was immediately triggered. He kept the 4 Emperor's Arhat Pine in his hand and dashed towards Ning Fan in a flash. The group of soul warriors behind him cast their techniques at the same time, giving the white-haired brawny man a buff. Meng Zhen was a body cultivator. Under the support of the many soul warriors, his strength increased by 30%. Ning Fan did not dare to be careless in front of this person. He pointed at Lu Qingzhen again to protect Duo Lan and the others. After that, he activated his protective golden light and rushed towards Meng Zhen. The two of them directly collided with each other using pure physical strength. Ning Fan was directly sent flying backwards. In terms of physical strength, there was a huge gap between him and the white-haired brawny man. Fortunately, he had the God-exterminating shield to protect him. Thus, he was not injured. However, the Zhang golden light was dented by the white-haired brawny man. Ning Fan's expression became even more solemn. Meng Zhen's eyes became even more gloomy. One should know that not many of those senior First Tribulation immortal venerables could withstand his attack head-on. However, it was not enough to completely break Ning Fan's Zhang golden light. From the looks of it, the scariness of the golden light's defense was far beyond his expectation. Your 30 million flying swords are already in my hands. So what if you have a heaven-defying defense? 9 breaths of Qi submission technique, 1 breath of fire submission technique. Meng Zhen muttered incantations. All of a sudden, he flipped his hand and took out a fiery red crystal core. He rubbed his palm and it turned into powder. Then, he scattered it into the sky and it turned into a boundless sea of fire. That crystal core looked exactly the same as the fire crystal Ning Fan obtained from killing the fire soul. The only difference was the fire power it contained. Meng Zhen suddenly inhaled at the sea of fire. Instantly, he absorbed nearly 1/3 of the sea of fire. Then, He inhaled another third of the sea of fire. After that, he seemed to have reached his limit and could no longer absorb any more, causing the sea of fire to disperse. Meng Zhen's physical body expanded by a size each time he absorbed the flames. His body became thicker and filled with explosive power. Meng Zhen dashed out and clashed with Ning Fan again. Ning Fan could clearly feel that after Meng Zhen used the 9 breaths of qi submission technique, the strength of his physical body had greatly increased. He could already break through the golden light that was nearly 1 zhang. Unfortunately, my comprehension is limited. I can only achieve 2 breaths of qi submission technique. If I can achieve more than 6 breaths, I think it would be enough to break through this young man's golden light. After exchanging hundreds of blows with Ning Fan, Meng Zhen still could not do anything to him. His eyes became even more gloomy. He flipped his hand and took out the other 2 fire crystals. He then rubbed them into powder to use his ability. Meng Zhen did not seem to make any changes to his hand seals. Suddenly, flames burst out from his hand. Then, a 1-meter-long flaming blade appeared in the flames. There were dark golden runes flowing on the blade. The flaming blade was an item of the Buddha sect. However, the blade that Meng Zhen summoned did not have any Buddha nature at all. Instead, it gave people a feeling that it was filled with monstrous devil qi. This blade was not a magic treasure. Instead, it was the manifestation of a divine ability. Extremely pure Tao of fire coiled around it. Without seeing how the white-haired muscular man made his move, the flaming blade suddenly disappeared as if it was just controlled by his spirit sense. Its speed was so fast that it could not be seen at all. Then, a strong penetrating force came from Ning Fan's left shoulder. The flaming blade had already reached his left shoulder, but it was blocked by the golden light that was protecting him. Even though he managed to block the flaming blade, Ning Fan's golden light was still pierced through 2 zhang. It was so sharp. How can this person's defense be so strong? Meng Zhen's confidence was greatly damaged. The flaming blade was his trump card. After using this technique, his already pale skin became even paler. It was obvious that he had consumed a lot of his energy. This technique was the 11th technique of the 12 stones of flame ancestor fire technique. With his cultivation base that had yet to stabilize, he could not use it too many times. Using it once was already his limit. In the past, when he used it, even a first tribulation immortal venerable would be severely injured. However, he could not even break Ning Fan's golden light. This was Ning Fan who had his cultivation base restricted. If he was at his peak, he would not be able to fight back at all in front of Ning Fan. After hundreds of rounds of fighting, the more techniques Ning Fan used, the more frustrated Meng Zhen was. The 7th Devil Sun's arrogance was getting more and more damaged. He could not help but admit that Ning Fan's tortoise shell was too hard. His magic power was also endless. In this way, it was not possible for him to exhaust his magic power. On the contrary, Meng Zhen's magic power was greatly depleted. If the battle continues, he would probably suffer a great loss due to the depletion of his magic power. Are you determined to protect Chu Lai and Duolan and become enemies with me, Shi Yan? Meng Zhen said in a gloomy tone. Ning Fan did not bother to respond to Meng Zhen at all. This made Meng Zhen ask for a snub and he no longer talked to Ning Fan. All of a sudden, the ground inside the stone dragon's abdomen shook violently. It was as if the stone dragon that was moving rapidly had hit something and came to a sudden halt. Meng Zhen suddenly sneered when he sensed the tremor. After exchanging another blow with Ning Fan, he suddenly disappeared in front of Ning Fan and the others along with the group of soul warriors and the flame soul of broken thought. They had actually left the stone dragon's body and arrived at the outside world. The seal of 2 realms has arrived. I can't break your golden light, but I don't believe that the saint power of the seal of 2 realms can't kill you. Meng Zhen brought a group of his subordinates and appeared in the dark underground world. There was actually a large area of soilless space underground. Even the gigantic stone dragon that was 100 li could move freely in this soilless space. On the ground not far away from them, there was an abyss that was burning with flames. The abyss was bottomless and no one knew where it led to. Besides, there was a powerful force that could stop anyone from probing the vicinity of the abyss and kill anyone who enters it. Oh. Devil Son Mengjin has returned. I wonder if he can capture that Chu Lai Duolon. For rays of dark green flames suddenly shot out from the abyss and landed outside the abyss. They turned into 4 people. There was an elderly man and a burly man. However, all of them were illusions and not real bodies. Even though they did not descend with their real bodies, one could still tell from their chi that their true bodies were at least at the immortal emperor realm. They were actually the illusions of 4 immortal emperors who were guarding this place. Besides, judging from their appearance and chi, the true bodies of these 4 people clearly belonged to the Fire Spirit clan. They were the experts of the Fire Spirit clan. Fortunately, I didn't fail you. However, I haven't gotten the chance to pry out the secret that Chu Lai Duolon told me. Now, there's still a problem inside this 100-li stone dragon that's preventing me from completing my task. Speaking of Ning Fan, Mengjin also felt a headache. Problem? Little friend Meng, you should know that we, the Fire Spirit clan, can't cross the seal of 2 realms and descend to the outside world without the summoning of the Fire Talisman. Even if you bring this problem here, don't expect us to help you kill the intruders. As soon as they heard that Mengjin had not completed his task, the 4 illusions of the immortal emperors were instantly displeased. Chapter 1012. I'm naturally aware of this. There's no need for imperial monarchs to worry about killing this person. I'll naturally think of a way to deal with this trouble. Mengjin glanced at the flaming abyss with deep meaning in his eyes. The 4 immortal emperors immediately understood and smiled at each other. The fiery abyss was set up by the herb gatherer saint before he died, and there was a seal within it that suppressed the fire spirit race forever. It was called the Seal of 2 Worlds. The 2 Realms seal was a fire elemental seal. It was divided into 2 layers, the inner and the outer layer. The inner layer contained extremely complicated variations of the Tao of Fire. Even immortal emperors from the Abdicate tribe who cultivated fire for their entire lives couldn't see through the variations of the Tao of Fire. In reality, it wasn't that the celestial emperors of the Sagely Mountain were unaware of the existence of the Dual Realm Seal. It was precisely because of how dangerous it was that they kept it a secret. Debay had a total of 108 grasslands. Under each grassland was a seal of 2 realms. However, those who had the right to know the location of the sealed realms were at least the 10,000 ancient celestial sovereigns. Cultivators from small tribes in the southern border grasslands definitely did not have the right to know. To any despicable person, the seal of 2 realms was an absolutely dangerous place. In ancient times, there was a celestial emperor of the sacred mountain who wanted to pass through the seal of the 2 worlds to find out where the fire soul race was. In the end, he couldn't even pass through the outer seal, let alone the inner seal. The celestial emperor was even more careless and was trapped in the outer seal. It took him 10 years to escape. However, when he broke free, his body was destroyed, his magic treasures were destroyed, and his primordial spirit even suffered irreparable burns. After holding on for another few hundred years, his primordial spirit's injuries worsened to the limit, and he was unable to hold on any longer. He died with hatred in his heart, and the way he died was extremely tragic. His primordial spirit was burnt to ashes. This matter shocked the entire sacred mountain. In the end, everything regarding the 2 realms seal became a top secret of the sacred mountain. Only the ancient cultivators were qualified to know a bit about it. Low-level cultivators were never allowed to spread the information, as they were afraid that some reckless juniors would go to the 2 realms seal and die. As a result, low-level cultivators only knew that the Fire Spirit clan was sealed under the Dabi grassland, but few could find the locations of the Fire Spirit clan seals. If it wasn't for Meng Zhen who kidnapped Ning Fan and his group and brought them to this place, it would be extremely difficult for Ning Fan to find this place by himself. The outer seal was already extremely dangerous, but the inner seal was even more dangerous than the outer seal. It was said that within the inner seal, there was a remnant of a saint's evil will. Anyone who crossed the boundary would be killed without mercy. The fire soul race was trapped underground. If they wanted to rush out, they had to break through the inner seal and then break through the outer seal. However, the sad thing was that in the long history of the Fire Spirit clan, there had never been a Fire Spirit expert who could break through the inner seal with his own strength. Forcefully entering the inner seal would only result in death. Even the Fire Soul Immortal Emperor was no exception. Once they entered the inner seal, they wouldn't be able to escape in time and would die a horrible death. For example, these 4 Fire Soul Celestial Emperors only dared to turn into an illusion and land near the Two-World Seal. That was already their limit. It was impossible for him to charge out of the seal of the 2 realms with his true body. The Fire Spirit race had sealed their hatred for the 2 worlds, but more than that, they were in awe. It was as if they were worshipping gods, and they kept a respectful distance. According to the knowledge of the Fire Spirit race, the inner seal was a dangerous place. Whoever entered would die. The outer seal was barely a dangerous place. If an immortal emperor entered, they might have a chance to escape. However, if an immortal venerable or immortal king entered, they would definitely die. It seems like little friend Meng Zhen is planning to use the 100-mile stone dragon's earth-space technique to throw that troublesome person into the 2 realms seal and burn him to death. However, this time, little friend borrowed 175 thought fragment fire souls. Why did you only bring back these? One of the Fire Soul Emperor's shadow changed the topic and asked with a frown. To the Fire Spirit race, although there were many thought fragment fire souls, there were not so many that they could ignore the casualties. This Fire Soul Emperor took a quick glance and found that there were only a little more than 100 thought fragment fire souls. Those that couldn't return must have been killed. Instantly, he was dissatisfied. This was not a small matter. If it was said that the southern border cultivators killed the thought fragment fire souls, this Fire Soul Immortal Emperor would never believe it. The southern border was only a small place. The strength of the cultivators here was limited. It was possible to kill a few thought fragment fire souls together, but it was impossible to kill 70 of them. There must be other people involved in this matter. This number of casualties had exceeded the expectations of the Fire Soul Great Emperors. As he spoke, the Fire Soul Great Emperor took out talismans one after another. These talismans were similar to the Fire Summoning Talisman, but they were also very different. After chanting, the flame souls of broken thoughts that Meng Zhen brought back turned into flickering flames one after another, disappearing from where they were. They had been summoned back to the Fire Soul race. Such a heavy loss. Naturally, someone interfered with our plan. That person is the troublesome person that I mentioned. This person is a 10,000 ancient immortal venerable. However, because he is an external cultivator, he was sealed by the holy mountain Xinghuan. Therefore, he can't even use half of his strength. Speaking up to this point, Meng Zhen clearly saw the disdain in the eyes of the Fire Soul Great Emperors and immediately felt ashamed. The dignified Stone Flame Devil Sun couldn't even kill an immortal venerable external cultivator with half of his strength. This was a blow to the arrogant Stone Flame Devil Sun. If it wasn't for the strength of the 100-mile stone dragon, the plan to capture Duo Lan would have ended in failure. Fortunately, they managed to capture Duo Lan in the end. External cultivator, huh? A mere external cultivator dares to kill more than 70 of my compatriots. I really want to kill this person with my own hands. It's a pity that my true body can't escape. A Fire Soul Great Emperor who hated outsiders said regretfully. Although this trip's losses are not light, it's fortunate that we brought back Holy Maiden Chu Lai. If her memory really has the stone seat coordinates sealed, our Fire Soul race will be closer to breaking out of the seal. Compared to this matter, these losses are insignificant. Another Fire Soul Great Emperor said. When the stone seat coordinates was mentioned, the few Fire Soul Great Emperors became spirited. However, Meng Zhen wanted to say something but hesitated. Hehe, Great Emperors, don't be anxious. With the seal of 2 realms, killing that trouble will only take a moment. There's no need to be anxious. The key is that once that trouble dies, we have to discuss how to deal with Chu Lai Duolan. According to the previous agreement, the Tri-Flames Great Emperor and your Fire Soul Great Emperor will each take half of the stone seat coordinates in Chu Lai Duolan's memory. However, I recently received a piece of information from a certain Saint Mountain Great Emperor. It's rather reliable. He said that the stone seat coordinates in Chu Lai Duolan's memory isn't 4, but 7. If that's the case, it seems that we can't divide it equally. As soon as Meng Zhen's words fell, the 4 Fire Soul Great Emperors who were very shrewd couldn't help but be delighted. It's actually not 4, but 7. If that's the case, our Fire Soul race will be even closer to breaking out of the seal. However, if it's 7 coordinates, we have to change our previous agreement. 7 coordinates really can't be divided equally. Why don't our race take 4 and you Tri-Flames take 3? Then, our race will compensate you with some fire crystals. How about that? In my opinion, it's better for our race to take 5 and you Tri-Flames to take 2. Ha! Anyway, according to the agreement, you Tri-Flames can only take 2 coordinates. Meng Zhen knew that the Fire Soul Great Emperors would demand an exorbitant price. He said unpleasantly, although the Fire Soul race's fire crystals are good, I Tri-Flames prefer to take more coordinates. It's impossible for us to take 2 out of 5, but we Tri-Flames can take 4. How dare you? A mere celestial supremacy dares to bargain with us. We're just being polite and calling you Demon Son. Do you really think you're on the same level as us? It's fine if there's no dispute, but since there is a dispute, you're not qualified to deal with it. Let us talk to you, Tri-Flames Celestial Emperor. Even if you, Tri-Flames Celestial Emperor, are here, you won't be able to get more coordinates than our Fire Soul race. At least we'll take 4 and you take 3. The Fire Soul Great Emperors said arrogantly. Facing the auras of the 4 emperors, Meng Zhen showed no sign of fear. It would be fine if he was facing the true bodies of the 4 immortal emperors. However, they were just the illusory bodies of 4 immortal emperors without any cultivation base. Meng Zhen had nothing to be afraid of. After letting out a cold smile, he suddenly spat out a ray of golden light and reached out to grab it. It was a golden token. The appearance of the token was very strange. It looked like a palm with 5 fingers spread out. One could even see the ever-changing palm lines on the token. Golden Flame Ancestral Token. How did you get this token? As soon as they saw the token, the 4 emperors sucked in a cold breath. Their faces were filled with shock. The arrogant attitude they had before was completely gone. When they looked at Meng Zhen again, their eyes were filled with fear. With this token, do I have the right to discuss this matter? Meng Zhen said proudly. I didn't expect little friend Meng to be one of the descendants of the Flame Ancestor. If that's the case, we'll do as you say. The Fire Soul Great Emperors looked at each other and sighed. They no longer had any objections to the matter regarding the coordinates. Meng Zhen became even more complacent. He glanced at the gigantic stone dragon behind him with eyes filled with killing intent. It's time to kill Ning Fan. After killing Ning Fan, I still have to search Duolan's memories. According to our agreement, I will read the coordinates of the empty space using the ancient 3 flames technique. As for the coordinates of the time and position, I will hand them over to your Fire Soul race to read them using your Fire Soul ancient technique. Now, the number of coordinates has increased to 7. I wonder if the materials you have prepared are enough to perform the technique. If not, it will be a little troublesome. Meng Zhen asked. Little friend Meng, don't worry. My race has already started preparing for this a few months ago. We have prepared a few extra sets of materials to perform the technique. It is completely enough. Let's just kill that troublesome fellow as soon as possible and search Duolan's memories. Alright. Great Emperors, please step aside. I'm going to perform the Earth Void technique. Meng Zhen confidently transmitted his voice to the stone dragon and gave an order. Then, he formed a hand seal with both of his hands and performed a divine ability. The strange thing was that the stone dragon did not respond to Meng Zhen's order at all. It did not send Ning Fan into the 2 worlds sealing fire abyss. Why isn't this stone dragon listening to my order? Could it be that the time I tamed it is too short and it still wants to resist me? Meng Zhen thought it was strange and transmitted his voice to the stone dragon again. However, he still did not get any response from it. After a few times, Meng Zhen's expression suddenly turned extremely gloomy. How could he not know that something had happened to the stone dragon? You're really capable. Your cultivation base is obviously sealed, but you can still break free from the stone dragon's body. I have really underestimated you. As soon as Meng Zhen finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared on the gigantic head of the stone dragon. It was none other than Ning Fan. This person is the troublesome fellow that you mentioned? The stomach of the stone dragon can trap an immortal king. This young man is just an immortal venerable, and he was even sealed by the punishment ring. However, he could actually break free from it. It seems like this young man must have some tricks that we don't know about. We can't underestimate him. The few Fire Soul Great Emperors were secretly shocked. However, something even more shocking had yet to happen. Ning Fan suddenly opened his mouth and gave an order. Use your Earth Void technique to swallow these people and throw them into the two-world seal to burn them to death. He was actually giving an order to the stone dragon. What was strange was that the stone dragon that did not listen to Meng Zhen's order before was now obeying Ning Fan's order. Roar! The stone dragon let out a strange roar that sounded like both an ox and an elephant. At the moment when the roar resounded, Meng Zhen, the soul warriors behind him and the 4 Fire Soul Great Emperors did not even have the time to dodge. Their vision darkened and they felt dizzy. They were actually swallowed into the mouth of the stone dragon. This time, after the stone dragon swallowed them, it did not imprison them into its stomach. Instead, it spat Meng Zhen and the others into the blazing flames of the two-world seal. The 4 Fire Soul Immortal Emperors were just phantoms without any cultivation base. It was only natural for them to be swallowed. Almost at the same time they fell into the abyss of fire, they screamed and died. Of course, their true bodies would not suffer any damage. Even though the medicine souls of those soul warriors were strong, their physical bodies were really weak. As soon as they entered the area of the two-world seal, they were burned into ashes one after another. Their screams could be heard everywhere. As for Meng Zhen, he was already scared out of his wits. He could not understand why the stone dragon would betray them and why it would listen to Ning Fan's order. What frightened him even more was that he had already been sucked into the outer area of the seal of the two worlds by the stone dragon's earth-devouring technique in just the blink of an eye. Now, he was falling towards the depths of the seal of the two worlds. He could neither fly nor rise into the sky. He could only fall. With his current abilities, he could not resist the restrictive power of the seal of the two worlds. This was a seal that was laid down by a sage. In the dark green sea of fire, the temperature was so high that it almost burned Meng Zhen's body into charcoal in an instant. Even with the strength of his physical body, he could not resist the destructive power of the flames here. Why? Why? I should have been the one who threw Ning Fan into the seal of the two worlds. Why did the situation turn around? Meng Zhen used his defensive abilities one after another. All he could do was try his best not to be burned to death by the blazing flames of the outer area of the seal. However, his body was still falling irrevocably. Originally, he had many magic treasures that he could use. However, to his despair, he realized that all of them had disappeared. Without a doubt, they must have been taken away by the stone dragon that was good at seizing treasures the moment he was swallowed. Damn it! Even the golden palm token of the flame ancestor has been taken away. I'm really finished this time. If I have the token, I might still have a chance to survive. Now, however, only death awaits me. After falling for an unknown period of time, just when Meng Zhen was about to lose consciousness due to the suffocating smoke, the sound of waves beating on the shore finally resounded from the deepest part of the seal of the two worlds. That was the area of the inner seal. In the middle of the sea of fire, there was a small hill that protruded from the surface of the sea. On top of the hill sat an old man whose eyes were filled with ferocity. He did not have any rationality or emotions. All he had was a pair of blood-red eyes filled with killing intent. That was the spirit of the seal that was formed by the sage's ominous intent in the inner seal. It was a small hill that was made up of skulls. If one takes a closer look, they would realize that there were many skulls of immortal emperors among the tens of thousands of skulls. Those who cross the boundary, kill. Bang! Suddenly, a loud explosion resounded. Meng Zhen, who was insufferably arrogant, directly exploded into a mist of blood and died. He did not even have the time to see the appearance of the old man with the ominous intent. It was the ominous intent old man who killed Meng Zhen. His body seemed to have moved a little, but at the same time, it also seemed like he had not moved at all. He was still sitting on the small hill of skulls. At this moment, Meng Zhen, who had the cultivation base of an immortal venerable, died in his hands. He had no cultivation base, no rationality, no emotions, and he did not know how to think. He was just an ominous intent that had been left behind since ancient times. Just because he was left behind by a sage, even an immortal emperor would not be a match for him. So what if you're the Stone Flame Devil son? You're just an ant. So this is the ominous intent of a sage. A single thought that has been passed down since ancient times can kill an immortal venerable. Ning Fan forcibly used the rain technique. When he saw the scene where the old man killed Meng Zhen in the Seal of the Two Worlds, he was inwardly shocked. It was just the ominous intent of a sage. However, the feeling that it gave Ning Fan was no less powerful than Xiang Bozi. Under the 108 grasslands of Debay, there was a Seal of the Two Worlds. Could it be that each of the Seal of the Two Worlds was guarded by an ominous intent with terrifying strength? Those who enter the immortal intent realm, kill. As soon as the ominous intent old man's cold voice came out, raindrops that were hidden deep inside and outside the Seal of the Two Worlds were forcefully forced out. Then, they exploded one after another, bringing with them a mist of blood. Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. The trace of spirit sense that followed Meng Zhen into the Seal of the Two Worlds had been destroyed. Fortunately, only a small amount of spirit sense had entered the Seal of the Two Worlds. Thus, the damage was close to zero. As if it had sensed Meng Zhen's death, the stone dragon let out a sorrowful cry. However, it still could not disobey Ning Fan's order. Ning Fan descended from the gigantic head of the stone dragon and landed near the entrance of the Seal of the Two Worlds. He looked at the bottomless abyss of fire with a solemn expression. The ancient immortal venerables would die if they entered the Seal of the Two Worlds. It was indeed not a lie. That Meng Zhen was not weak. However, he did not last long in the Seal of the Two Worlds, that ominous intent old man with terrifying strength and the seal that the fire spirit race could not cross for generations. Fortunately, he had subdued the stone dragon at the critical moment. Otherwise, the one who would be spat into the Seal of the Two Worlds and be burned to death would not be Meng Zhen but him. I didn't expect that such an incident would happen in the minor competition of the southern border. Moreover, I actually learned so many secrets of the great desolate continent by chance. Ning Fan's eyes turned dark. After Meng Zhen and the others escaped from the belly of the stone dragon, Ning Fan began to move around inside. First, he tried to break the wall of the stone dragon's belly to escape. However, he realized that the interior of the stone dragon's belly was impregnable. It was an excellent cage that was refined by Jin Guang with countless precious treasures. It was strong enough to defend against an immortal king realm attack. With his sealed cultivation base, he naturally could not break it. In that case, Ning Fan had to think of another way to escape. Even though his cultivation base was not strong enough, he still had many tricks up his sleeves. He managed to travel through the stone dragon's belly. Eventually, he arrived at the head of the stone dragon. After layers of solid defense, he arrived at the stone dragon's sea of consciousness. The stone dragon's belly had been specially refined. The place where its sea of consciousness was located was incomparably sturdy. Even a peak immortal king realm expert might not be able to damage its sea of consciousness. If it did not have such tricks, the stone dragon would not dare to casually swallow people. Unfortunately, the person it swallowed was Ning Fan. If there were no accidents, Ning Fan did not plan to use his trump card. However, the current situation was special. He did not know where Meng Zhen had gone, but he vaguely felt a sense of danger. Obviously, Meng Zhen was not lying when he said that he could kill him. If he does not get out of the stone dragon's belly as soon as possible, he would certainly be in great danger. Therefore, Ning Fan did not hold back at all. He directly took out his origin chi. This was the biggest trump card he could rely on now. Due to his cultivation base being restricted, he could not use the bottle of water drowning world. Since he was in the Supreme Pill's sacred region, he could not use Shadi's jade slip. If the origin chi were to explode, it would be enough to severely injure an immortal emperor. Thus, it was naturally not a problem for it to blow up the stone dragon's body. Now that he had reached a point where he had no choice but to use the origin chi, Ning Fan did not choose to blow up the stone dragon's belly to escape. If that was the case, he would not gain anything by using his trump card. Moreover, his 4 Emperor's Arhat Pines were still in Meng Zhen's hands. Even if he managed to blow up the stone dragon and escape, he did not have the confidence to kill Meng Zhen and take back the 4 Emperor's Arhat Pines under the restriction of his cultivation base. Ning Fan was not a person who liked to suffer losses. Thus, he maximized the effectiveness of the origin chi and chose to blow up the stone dragon's sea of consciousness instead of killing it. The biggest mistake of the stone dragon was that it should not have swallowed Ning Fan into its body. After all, it gave Ning Fan the chance to face the stone dragon's sea of consciousness directly. What was the sea of consciousness? It was where the spirit sense of a cultivator resided. If the sea of consciousness is destroyed, the cultivator would die. The same goes for beasts. If he was outside the stone dragon's body, Ning Fan would not be able to do what he did. However, now that he was inside the stone dragon's body and was facing the stone dragon's sea of consciousness, he directly did a crazy thing. He invaded the stone dragon's gigantic sea of consciousness and directly used an illusion technique on it. Ning Fan's illusion technique was very powerful. However, he rarely used it because he had too many trump cards. Now that he was facing the stone dragon's sea of consciousness, the terrifying power of his illusion technique was revealed. The stone dragon was directly controlled by Ning Fan using his illusion technique. Ning Fan even erased the various restrictions inside the stone dragon's sea of consciousness, reducing Meng Zhen's control over the stone dragon to 0. After that, he added the restrictions on himself. He actually disregarded the stone dragon's will and forcefully subdued it. The stone dragon was unwilling to betray its master. However, it was under Ning Fan's illusion technique. Its actions were not under its control at all. When it regained its senses, Meng Zhen was already killed by its own hands. How could the stone dragon not feel sad? It hated Ning Fan's ruthlessness to the core. He actually used an illusion technique to confuse it and kill its master. However, Ning Fan could not be blamed for this. It was Meng Zhen who attacked first. If Ning Fan did not counterattack, the one who died would not be Meng Zhen but him. The stone dragon's roar was filled with sorrow and determination. Moreover, it was filled with monstrous hatred. It could not wait to kill Ning Fan to avenge its master. It also wished that it could bang its head against the wall and commit suicide to apologize to its master. It desperately tried to resist the restrictions that Ning Fan planted in its sea of consciousness. However, it realized that it could not resist at all. Forcefully resisting would only result in death. It was not afraid of death. However, what made it even sadder was that it could not even die. It was under Ning Fan's illusion technique. If Ning Fan did not take the initiative to break it, it would not be able to break free from it. That illusion technique had deprived it of control over its body. It could not take revenge. It could not even die. After all, it was an illusion technique that Ning Fan directly planted in its sea of consciousness. Moo. Moo. Moo, be quiet. Ning Fan ordered with a cold voice. The stone dragon could not roar anymore. Its sea of consciousness became chaotic again and it submitted to Ning Fan blankly. Ning Fan sighed. This stone dragon was really loyal. Unfortunately, he could not make use of it. With a flip of his hand, a pine sapling, a golden palm token and a storage pouch appeared in his hand. The pine sapling was the Luohan pine of the four emperors. The golden palm token seemed to be called the Flame Ancestor Golden Palm Token according to the conversation that Ning Fan had overheard when he escaped from the Sea of Consciousness. Moreover, it seemed to have a powerful background as it could make the four immortal emperors of the fire spirit race fearful and force them to compromise. After taking a closer look, Ning Fan suddenly exclaimed softly. Then, he smiled faintly. The ability of this token still needs to be verified. However, if I am not mistaken, perhaps it is not a loss for me to use up my primordial qi. As for the storage pouch, it was the storage pouch of Devil's Son Mengzhen. There were not too many good items in it. Ning Fan just nodded his head slightly. There was nothing that caught his fancy. Ning Fan kept his spoils of war and turned his head to look at the stone dragon. Then, he suddenly said. Whether you are willing or not, no matter how unwilling you are, from today onwards, you will become my slave. This is the cruelty of cultivation. From the moment you attack me, you must be prepared to bear the consequences. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Fan did not care whether the stone dragon could hear his words or not. He directly flew back into the stone dragon's abdomen with a sway of his body. After giving another order, the stone dragon used its earth escape technique in a daze and moved underground. Gradually, it left the Seal of Two Realms. Even though Ning Fan had mentioned such an unforeseen event, he was still concerned about the result of the minor competition in the southern border. Now, he naturally wanted to return to the surface to check on the situation. After all, he had killed so many flame souls of broken sense. Just by looking at the points on his Dominion plate, it had already reached a terrifying 77,000 points. If there are no accidents, he should be able to get the first place in the minor competition in the southern border. After getting the first place in the southern border, it would be the second round of the Mausoleum Seizing competition, the competition in the middle state. When he heads to the middle state, he would first need to find Ouyang Nguyen and Zhang Yu. Of course, before that, Ning Fan still needed to break through to the mid-shedding void realm first. He was still suppressing the sudden heart tribulation of the mid-shedding void realm. Inside the stone dragon's abdomen, Ning Fan had returned. The surviving cultivators of the southern border began to cheer excitedly. They actually escaped from death and managed to keep their lives from the hands of the Stoneflame Devil's Son and the Hundredly Stone Dragon. This was really unbelievable. No one was willing to die. The reason why these cultivators of the southern border would rather die than surrender to Devil's Son Mengzhen was because of their moral integrity. If they could survive, of course, it would be even better. It's all thanks to Lord Ning's help that we managed to escape from the hands of Devil's Son Mengzhen. From now on, this lowly one's life belongs to Lord Ning. Even though you are an external cultivator, you are the benefactor of our Water Wolf tribe. Please accept our respect. From now on, if benefactor needs any help, we will die 10,000 times without hesitation. These stubborn and low-intelligence cultivators of the southern border said that they would die 10,000 times for Ning Fan and they would really do it. They did not know how to lie or be courteous. Those who knew how to lie had already been killed by Mengzhen disdainfully when they first defected to the enemy. Towards their gratitude, Ning Fan just casually responded and did not take it to heart. After all, he did not intend to save most of them. The reason why they were still alive could only be said to be because they were lucky. At first, he only wanted to save the cultivators of the Pagoda Wood tribe and the Evil Goat tribe. Master, you're too amazing. You actually killed the Devil's Son of Stone Flame. You actually subdued a Hundredly Stone Dragon. You actually... Xian Yu Chun, the dumbass, was talking about Ning Fan's achievements in detail. Ning Fan was not a person who liked to listen to flattery. However, when there was really a dumbass who kept praising him and all of his words were sincere, he could not help but reveal a smile despite his usual coldness. A helpless smile. This dumbass admiration towards him seemed to have deepened. However, he really did not plan to take him as a disciple. Of course, Compared to Xian Yuchun, Ning Fan was more concerned about Duo Lan. It was not because he was concerned about him. Instead, it was because of some words that he had eavesdropped on him. What were the coordinates of the stone seat? Something that could make the Three Flames and the Fire Spirit clan pay so much attention to it and make the immortal emperor of the Sacred Mountain collude with the enemy and send the information to Shi Yen to plot against Duo Lan must not be something simple. According to what Meng Zhen and the others said, there were 7 coordinates of the stone seat sealed in Duo Lan's memory. However, Ning Fan had clearly searched through Duo Lan's memory before, but why did he not find any coordinates? He remembered that Meng Zhen seemed to have mentioned different ways to obtain the space coordinates and the time coordinates. Perhaps the so-called coordinates could only be seen from Duo Lan's memory using special methods. Regarding this incident, you should have something to tell me, right? Since there are too many people here, I won't ask too many questions. When we return to the southern border, I hope to hear your honest answer. Ning Fan transmitted his voice to Duo Lan meaningfully. Duo Lan bit her lips with some hesitation. In the end, she nodded silently. This scene was seen by some of the cultivators of the southern border. Naturally, they could not hear Ning Fan's voice transmission. They could only see Ning Fan and Duo Lan exchanging glances. Thus, these foolish cultivators of the southern border immediately thought that they were smart. There's no doubt that Lord Ning has an affair with the mausoleum guardian of the Sacred Mountain. Xian Yuchun, who originally did not have much interest in Duo Lan, began to call Duo Lan his mistress foolishly, making Ning Fan speechless. Urgent report from the Middle State. Fire Soul insurrection has occurred in the southern border. The casualties are still unknown. The situation is urgent. On the Celestial Capital Peak, only the Celestial Capital Emperor was dealing with this matter. The other immortal emperors had already left. The insurrection of the Fire Soul insurrection was definitely not a trivial matter. However, it only happened in a small place like the southern border. It was enough to alarm one immortal emperor, and not all the other immortal emperors would come to deal with this matter. After all, it was just the insurrection of a group of broken sense Fire Soul insurrection. The Celestial Capital Emperor was sitting on a Buddhist lotus, holding a string of prayer beads. Suddenly, his slightly narrowed eyes opened. He had already sent people to the southern border to investigate and provide aid. This time, the southern border would definitely suffer a great loss. However, to the weak southern border, it might not be a bad thing to have such a bloody baptism. Tribes had their own benefits. The risk of group cultivation was low and the environment was safe. However, there were also disadvantages. Most of them did not have enough understanding of the cruelty of cultivation and lacked the experience of bloody battles. Have you found out? What's the purpose behind the insurrection of the Fire Soul insurrection in the southern border? You should know that every time the Fire Soul insurrection occurs, the price that the Fire Soul race has to pay is definitely not small. There must be a conspiracy behind this matter. However, I don't know if the insurrection this time is purely an act of the Fire Soul race or if the Triflames are mixed in. The Celestial Capital Emperor's voice was very cold. Although the matter in the southern border was urgent, it was just that. He would not personally go to the southern border for such a small matter. As for the insurrection in the southern border, we have not received any report yet. However, the results of the martial test in the grasslands have been released. After the results of the written test and the martial test, the ranking of the tribes in the grasslands has also been released. Does the Emperor want to have a look? A Celestial Capital Sect's disciple with the cultivation of immortal supremacy suddenly reported. Alright, we might as well wait and see the results of the first round of the mausoleum seizing. After this old man has a look, I will send a copy to the other 4 emperors. The Celestial Capital Emperor nodded. To the immortal emperors, the insurrection in the southern border was just a small matter. Naturally, they would not spend all their attention on this matter. As for the 100 Flowers Great Emperor, will she also send a copy? The Celestial Supremacy's disciple asked carefully. A strange smile flashed across the Celestial Capital Emperor's eyes as he answered. As for whether she is willing to have a look at it or not, it's not something I can control. The celestial capital emperor's eyes fell on the scroll in his hand. He browsed through the results of the tribes in the grasslands. With his intelligence, the results of most of the tribes were within his expectations. Thus, he was not too surprised. All of a sudden, the celestial capital emperor exclaimed softly. His eyes fell on the column at the end of the scroll which was about the southern border. Oh! Didn't the insurrection happen in the southern border? Why can this Towerwood tribe still obtain so many results? Could it be that they are profiting from the chaos? The Towerwood tribe, 77,000 points. They were fully deserving of being the #1 tribe in the southern border. They were 60,000 points higher than the Wind's Summoning tribe which was ranked second. The Emperor might not know this, but the Towerwood tribe's overall results are not that high. These 77,000 points were obtained by one person. It was none other than Ning Fan, the external cultivator invited by Towerwood. He killed 71 flame soul fragments with his own strength. That is why the Towerwood tribe obtained such a shocking result. I suppose he must have killed them in the chaos. With this person around, the anxiety of the southern border has been alleviated. Oh! He killed 71 flame soul fragments with his own strength. Even though this person is an ancient immortal venerate, he should have been sealed by the punishment ring. Could it be that he has destroyed the ring? The celestial capital emperor's expression immediately turned cold. If this external cultivator really dares to destroy the ring, he must be killed regardless of whether he has contributed to the peace of the southern border or not. In reply to the emperor, there is no news about the destruction of the punishment ring in the punishment temple. I suppose this person did not destroy the ring. If that is the case, forget it. This person is able to achieve such a great achievement when his cultivation base is limited. He is really a good seedling. Unfortunately, he is an external cultivator. The celestial capital emperor's eyes flashed with a scheming light. No one knew what he was thinking about. His disciples did not dare to disturb him. Report. The whole story of this incident has been investigated. Please have a look, Emperor. Suddenly, an immortal king realm disciple entered from the outside and handed a secret report to the celestial capital emperor. The celestial capital emperor looked at the first few lines of the report and immediately felt cold. As expected, it is San Yan's doing. Stone Flame Devil Sun Mengzhen. I didn't think that Stone Flame would actually send out the holder of the Golden Flame Ancestral Token. What a big move. Are they after Chu Lai Duolan? It seems like the information I received is not groundless. The celestial capital emperor continued to read and his expression suddenly became serious. When he saw the last few lines, the celestial capital emperor suddenly stood up. His face was filled with shock and he could not control himself. The successor of the Golden Palm Token was actually killed. Could it be that an immortal emperor made a move? Otherwise, who could surpass the power of the Flame Ancestral Token and kill this person? Others might not know, but as the person with the highest authority in the middle state, how could he not know Mengzhen's other terrifying identity? Unfortunately, the people below were unable to investigate the details clearly. They could only obtain fragmented information from the survivors who returned to the southern border. Report. The latest news from the southern border has arrived. Please have a look, Emperor. The celestial capital emperor lost his composure. He suddenly opened the scroll and his actions were rather urgent. The scroll contained the answer that he was eager to know at this moment. However, this answer was something that he could not believe no matter what. It made him suck in a breath of cold air. Emperor, the one who killed the Stone Flame Devil Sun is Ning Fan, an external cultivator. How could this be possible? A mere immortal venerable external cultivator who had his cultivation base sealed actually managed to kill the Stone Flame Devil Sun. That was not an ordinary Devil Sun. He was the holder of the Golden Palm Token. Even if the celestial capital emperor were to take action, he did not have full confidence in killing Mengzhen. How did Ning Fan do it? Chapter 10-13. The chaos in the southern border came and went quickly. Because the fire souls did not spread across the entire grassland, the losses of the riot were only limited to the wind summoning tribe and the participants and spectators of the minor competition in the southern border. The biggest victim was undoubtedly the wind summoning tribe. Not only did they lose their guardian corpse devil, but they also lost nearly 100,000 members in the riot. To the wind summoning tribe, which did not have many members, they could no longer maintain their original position as the number one tribe in the southern border. The other tribes had different degrees of casualties. Those who could participate in the minor competition in the southern border were the elites of each tribe. If they died or got injured, the strength of each tribe would naturally suffer a great loss. The evil goat tribe was one of the few large tribes which suffered lesser losses. This made the stubborn old members of the tribe feel very fortunate. Their attitude towards Xianyu Chun and the Ta-Mu tribe instantly became much better. As for the Ta-Mu tribe, it was fully deserving of being the biggest winner in this riot. In the end, the crown of the number one tribe in the southern border still fell on the Ta-Mu tribe, which had been at the bottom for 10,000 years because of Ning Fan's outstanding performance. Unfortunately, due to the riot, the process of the minor competition in the southern border was not complete. According to the process, after the results of the written and combat tests were collected, the tribe that obtained the first place would have to receive rewards. The rewards they would receive would be 30% of the fire crystals obtained by each tribe in the combat test. The sacred envoy corpse devil who was in charge of the minor competition in the southern border had already passed away. Naturally, no one would be in charge of the rewards. 6 days after the riot, a new person in charge came to the southern border to deal with the rewards of the Ta-Mu tribe. The first thing he needed to do was to visit each tribe and take away 30% of the fire crystals obtained by each tribe in the combat test. Then, he would give all the fire crystals to the Ta-Mu tribe. The person in charge this time was not Corpse Devil of the Sacred Mountain but one of the disciples of the Heaven Capital Emperor of the Middle State. He had the cultivation base of an eternal tribulation. His name was Ku Jing. He was a seemingly honest Buddhist cultivator. Usually, he could still talk eloquently when discussing scriptures and Buddhism. However, when dealing with people, he would be awkward with his words and actions. Ku Jing felt a slight headache. He did not like to deal with mundane affairs. However, this time, the Heaven Capital Emperor had personally asked him to handle this matter. Naturally, he could not reject him. Venerated Sovereign has given an order. The reward for this trip is not a big deal. Handing the invitation card of the ancient Buddha assembly to that external cultivator, Ning Fan, is the important matter at hand. This is really unbelievable. The ancient Buddha assembly has never allowed external cultivators to participate. Even for people from the Saint Mountain, not everyone is qualified to participate. I didn't think that the Arch-Venerate would actually make an exception for an external cultivator. It seems like he values this person a lot. As soon as she thought of how much the Heaven Capital valued Ning Fan, Si Jing could not help but put away her racial discrimination towards foreign cultivators. Before meeting him in person, she already had respect for him. With Si Jing's immortal venerable cultivation base, there was naturally no tribe that dared to refuse when she personally went to the various southern border tribes to ask for fire crystals. 30% of the fire crystals was not a small amount. It was a very important resource for raising the cultivation of the fire elementalists in the headquarters. According to Wu Jing's experience, most of the tribes would do some tricks. The number of fire crystals handed over would match the results of the Wushu test on the surface, but they would secretly substitute inferior fire crystals with inferior quality fire crystals. As a result, the fire crystals awarded to the first tribe were often shoddy items, and the person in charge would often turn a blind eye to this. This was the old practice. However, this time, Si Jing's horizons were greatly broadened. The Si Soul tribe should hand over 26 fire crystals. Among them, 22 true transference fire crystals and 4 void abandonment fire crystals should be handed over. There were 214 true transference fire crystals. Among them, there were 44 void abandonment fire crystals. All of the true transference fire crystals were also of excellent quality. The evil goat tribe should hand over 19 fire crystals, but they handed over 230 void abandonment fire crystals. Among them, there were 37 void abandonment fire crystals, and one of them was obviously not the thought fragment fire crystal that they obtained in the Wushu test. The water wolf tribe, the flying sand tribe. Each of the tribes in the southern border had actually handed over more fire crystals than they should have. Moreover, it was not just by a little. Even the wind summoning tribe and the white ghost tribe, who had always been at odds with the Tamu tribe, had also handed over more fire crystals than they should have. The number of cultivators that Ning Fan saved this time was not many. However, it almost covered all the tribes in the southern border. Thus, he actually gained the favor of the entire southern border. As for those who originally hated the Tamu tribe, many of them died when they betrayed the tribe. Even though some of them did not die, they naturally spared no effort to hand over more fire crystals this time because they had received Ning Fan's kindness of saving their lives. They did not even hesitate to use the treasuries of each tribe just to repay Ning Fan's kindness. I didn't expect that the matter of receiving the fire crystals would actually be so easy. Si Jing sighed with emotion. Then, he went to the Tamu tribe with the extra fire crystals. The Tamu tribe naturally did not dare to neglect a venerated immortal like Si Jing. Almost all of them welcomed her with open arms. After that, they received Si Jing's fire crystals and officially obtained the glory of being the #1 tribe in the southern border. Each of the people of the Tamu tribe was filled with joy. They lit bonfires and celebrated throughout the night. However, Si Jing did not see Ning Fan among these people who were celebrating. "Why didn't I see the external cultivator that you invited?" Si Jing's voice was calm. However, when it fell into the ears of the leader of the Tamu tribe, Tagli, it carried a sense of supreme majesty. In reply to High Envoy, Lord Ning is currently in secluded cultivation. He seems to be breaking through some kind of bottleneck. Thus, he did not come here. Do you need me to send a message to Lord Ning and ask him to come and meet High Envoy? Even though he said that, the hint of reluctance hidden deep in Tagli's eyes still betrayed his true thoughts. He did not want to disturb Ning Fan's secluded cultivation. Ning Fan was the benefactor of the Tamu tribe, the savior of the southern border and the most distinguished guest in the grassland. Ning Fan's secluded cultivation was more important than anything else. He was not willing to let this High Envoy disturb Ning Fan's cultivation. "It's all right. There's no need to disturb this person. I will just wait here for a few days. I think this person will naturally come out of seclusion before the second round of the mausoleum seizing begins." Si Jing still had the task that the Heaven Capital gave him. Thus, he had no choice but to take the invitation and stay in the Tamu tribe temporarily while waiting for Ning Fan to come out of seclusion. This time, Ning Fan had chosen the forbidden area of the Tamu tribe, the Tamu medicinal pond. It was the place with the highest amount of spiritual qi in the Tamu tribe. It was also the most suitable place to break through bottlenecks. The reason why Ning Fan chose this place for secluded cultivation was naturally to face the second heart tribulation that suddenly came. Although it was called a medicinal pond, it was just a square pond that was 1,000 chi square in size. At the center of the pond was a Buddha statue that was enshrined in the water. The statue was still dressed like the medicine Buddha. The surface of the medicinal pond was covered with a formation that gathered the medicinal qi from all directions. The medicinal qi would liquefy and form the water in the pond. The water in the pond had the miraculous effect of nourishing the medicine soul. Every generation of the Tamu tribe would temper their medicine soul in this place. As time passed by, some medicinal quintessence would often be formed in the medicinal pond. It would accumulate at the bottom of the pond and have the miraculous effect of improving the power of one's medicine soul. The longer the medicinal quintessence was deposited, the longer the effect would be. Generally speaking, the people of the Tamu tribe would take out the medicinal quintessence every 1,000 years for the experts in the tribe to consume. Most of the other tribes also had medicinal ponds. Basically, they would also take out the medicinal quintessence once every 1,000 years. When Ning Fan entered the medicinal pond, the medicinal quintessence that had accumulated at the bottom of the pond that had reached 1,000 years old had already been taken away. There were only some medicinal quintessences that were hundreds of years old left. These medicinal quintessences that were hundreds of years old were of great help to the cultivation of a 6th revolution pill master's medicine soul. However, to a high-grade 7th revolution pill master like Ning Fan, the effect was not great. Ning Fan sat in the medicinal pond with his clothes still on. He closed his eyes and meditated without uttering a single word. Other than occasionally consuming medicine soul stones, he did not open his eyes at all. He had been like this for 6 days already. Outside the medicinal pond, Duolan, Xianyu Chun and many of the people of the Tamu tribe were waiting for Ning Fan to come out of his seclusion so that they could participate in the celebration of the Tamu tribe. Outsiders only knew that Ning Fan was breaking through a small bottleneck of the eternal immortal venerated realm. However, they did not know that Ning Fan was just breaking through the bottleneck of the renunciation void realm. Above the medicinal pond, the illusory shadows of Ning Fan's 4 true bridges had already appeared. Under the true bridges was the murmuring river water. The reflections reflected on the surface of the water reflected Ning Fan's thoughts that were constantly changing. According to Ning Fan's personal opinion, his first heart tribulation should be about the word promise. As for his second heart tribulation, it seemed to be about the word kindness. The descent of the renunciation void tribulation could only be chanced upon and not sought. If one only goes into seclusion to cultivate diligently, one would not be able to experience the heart tribulation even after millions of years. If one goes out to travel, it might happen as soon as the opportunity arrives. Also, it might not happen until the opportunity arrives. Ning Fan could be considered to be very lucky. Because of Xianyu Chun's sorrowful and crazy roar, his heart was actually touched as if it resonated with him. Then, it directly triggered the second heart tribulation. That roar contained Xianyu Chun's sincere feelings towards his mother. It contained longing and sorrow. After returning to the surface, Ning Fan specially asked about Xianyu Chun's past before going into seclusion. He learned about some of Xianyu Chun's stories and also learned about the heart-wrenching pain of that roar. When Xianyu Chun was young, he was kidnapped by Shi Yan. His mother risked her life to save him. In the end, she died under Shi Yan's volcano divine ability. The young Xianyu Chun stood outside the volcano and watched his mother being suppressed to death bit by bit. However, he was powerless to save her. On that day, Xianyu Chun realized how weak he was. On that day, Xianyu Chun swore that he would definitely walk out of the southern border in this lifetime and live a life stronger than anyone else. Deep in his bones, Xianyu Chun had a monstrous hatred towards the 3 flames. If his cultivation base is strong enough in the future, he would certainly seek revenge on the 3 flames. Ning Fan saw his own shadow in Xianyu Chun. As for Xianyu Chun's mother, it reminded Ning Fan of his own mother. His mother had also risked everything to save him. However, unlike Xianyu Chun, Ning Fan's mother was still alive in the rain world. However, he did not know if his mother's stone statue had been petrified or not. He was a little homesick. As he thought of his mother, Ning Fan's heart tribulation came faster and faster. For 6 whole days, no matter how his reflection in the water of the True Bridge River changed, it was still the memories of him and his mother. There were fake memories of him living in the countryside with his mother in the purple battle illusory realm. There were pale memories of his mother painting the cocoon with her blood. There were also memories of him sitting outside the golden house and not daring to enter the house. There were also memories of him not daring to look at his mother's cold stone statue. Life in this world is like a white steed flashing past a crevice. What is the purpose of us cultivators? When we reach the end of our cultivation, we would usually be guarding a world that is getting stranger by the day. We would be guarding those fellow Taoists who have died forever and the promise that they made to live forever together. Occasionally, we would look through our old belongings and find the love letters that we wrote to our senior sister when we were young. When we passed by a market, we would suddenly remember that we did not have the time to buy the things that we promised our senior brother in the past. When we look back at our lives, we realized that the people who had been with us for a long time were no longer around. That kind of feeling was so lonely. As for those who could not go with us, they had already turned into a pile of yellow soil. There were too few stories of a man achieving the Tao and his companions ascending to the heavens. Most of the cultivators who were born as mortals had already died many years ago when they achieved the immortal Tao. Some of them had already cut the so-called parents' sword of wisdom out of their hearts when they were at the core formation realm or the spirit-severing mortal realm. However, everything in this world has its causes and effects. It's fine if you don't have the time to repay your parents' kindness. If you also cut off the memories and feelings of your parents, I'm afraid that it would be even more difficult for you to repay the karma. Such cultivators would never be able to achieve true perfection in their cultivation no matter what. Cutting off the emotions during the core formation realm is wrong, spirit-severing mortal realm is wrong, forgetting is also wrong. After 6 days, Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes. Green light flashed in his eyes. He had actually seen through the flaws of the current cultivation system from the perspective of perfection. I can't forget. How can I forget? In this world, not all scars need to be healed. There are also some that need to be kept and remembered forever. In the past, he was just unwilling to go against his Tao heart during the heart tribulation because of his stubbornness. Now, however, he had directly seen through the flaws of the heart-severing realm. During the first heart tribulation, he still could not understand it so much. However, during the second heart tribulation, he clearly felt that the heart-severing realm was not as simple as it seemed. There was even a vague feeling that he couldn't put into words. It made him vaguely feel that the first heart tribulation of renunciation wasn't as simple as the word promise, and the second heart tribulation wasn't as simple as the word kindness. The heart tribulation was not only the heaviest obsession of the heart-severing realm cultivators. The heart tribulation seemed to be a major turning point in the change of a cultivator's Tao heart. Previously, Ning Fan had some doubts about why the first scene of his first heart tribulation would start from the memory related to Hu Fengzi. That person could not be considered as an important figure in his path of cultivation, let alone in the rain world. However, when he thought about it now, he realized that this person had a profound influence on Ning Fan. It was when his Tao heart changed for the first time. When Ning Fan first entered the Devil Tao, he was just an ignorant young man who only wanted to take revenge. What he saw was only the dark side of the path of cultivation. However, until he met Hu Fengzi, Ning Fan truly realized that there were also some positive things on the path of cultivation. There were also cultivators who persevered bitterly, and there were also things that were more important than their lives that were worth protecting. Perhaps from that day onwards, Ning Fan was not just a young man who wanted to take revenge but a true cultivator. It could be considered as the first change of Ning Fan's Tao heart on the path of cultivation. As for his mother's memory, it started from the Purple Do illusory realm. Immortal Sovereign Zido had given Ning Fan an illusory memory where he lived an ordinary life with his mother. It was also from that moment onwards that Ning Fan realized that he was not just a devil cultivator but also an ordinary person. He ascended the mountain as an immortal and descended the mountain as a human. If it weren't for Immortal Sovereign Zido's guidance, perhaps Ning Fan would have sunk deep into the Devil Tao and would not be able to extricate himself from it. There would be no smile on his face but only cold killing intent. It could be said that during this period of time, Ning Fan had found a balance between the Devil Tao and the human heart. This could be considered as the second change in Ning Fan's Tao heart on his path of cultivation. 2 Heart Tribulations. If we only use promise and grace to understand it, it would be a little superficial. Rather than calling it a heart tribulation, it would be better to say that every time my heart changes. It's just that my Tao heart doesn't seem to have changed greatly from now on, and it's already set in stone. If I use a change of heart to understand it, then I wonder what kind of change of heart the third and fourth tribulation of renunciation will bring. Liang was able to trigger my tribulation of renunciation as well, so one of the tribulations is definitely related to her. However, Liang and I aren't just tied together in this lifetime, we're also tied together in our previous lifetimes. Could it be that my tribulation of renunciation doesn't just happen in this lifetime, but also in my previous lifetimes? If that's the case, then perhaps I might have had a change of heart in my previous lifetimes. Because of the comparison of the second heart tribulation, Ning Fan had a new guess about the pattern of his heart tribulation. His heart tribulation was originally different from ordinary people. Thus, he naturally needed to figure it out himself in order to find the correct path. From the 7th day onwards, other illusions began to appear under the true bridge. Some of them were the kindness of the old devil while others were the kindness of others. Sure enough, they all corresponded to the word grace. On the 11th day, the illusions stopped. Ning Fan knew that the breakthrough of his tribulation of renunciation had reached the most crucial moment. He still remembered that during his first heart tribulation, there was a terrifying withered palm that came at him and he was surrounded by perils. According to Ning Fan's guess, the second heart tribulation should not have such a change. However, he could not be too sure about it. Thus, he still made some preparations. Once the withered palm attacks him again, he would not just wait helplessly for death. Fortunately, there was no attack from the withered palm during his second heart tribulation. The process was very smooth. Ning Fan's ancient god and ancient demon cultivation base broke through to the mid-shedding void realm one after another. It would take a lot of time to stabilize his cultivation base. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was located in the Supreme Pill's sacred region and could not open the profound Yin world. Thus, he could not use the time tower inside to stabilize his cultivation base for the time being. Thus, he could only stabilize his cultivation base slightly to prevent it from falling. His divine and demon chi, however, seemed to be a little superficial and lacked solidification. Ning Fan carefully examined his own body. The increase in the cultivation base of his ancient god and ancient demon did not increase the total strength of his 4 elements by much. After all, his ancient devil chi and blood chi were at a higher cultivation base. However, after the increase in his divine and demon cultivation base, Ning Fan could still clearly feel that the balance of the 4 elements in his body had increased significantly. It was just like the shortcoming of a wooden bucket. When the shortcoming of a bucket was improved, the amount of water in the bucket would naturally increase accordingly. My overall strength did not increase by much. However, when I use different types of energy to display my abilities, the consumption of magic power has obviously decreased and the destructive power of my abilities has also increased. After all, when I display my abilities in the past, most of my magic power is wasted on maintaining the balance of my power. If my divine and demon cultivation base can continue to increase, the balance of the 4 elements in my body will also increase. Ning Fan exhaled a mouthful of murky chi and walked out of the medicinal pool. He circulated his magic power and evaporated the water on his body. He did not immediately walk out of the formation of the medicinal pool. Instead, he sat on a large rock at the side of the pool and took out the golden flame ancestral flame token that he took from Mengzhen. He held it in his hand and carefully rubbed it. After rubbing it 7 times, a ray of golden light suddenly flew out from the golden token and turned into a golden mist giant that only had half of its body left in midair. The aura force of the giant was extremely strong. It gave Ning Fan a feeling that it was not much weaker than the ominous sense formation spirit of the Seal of 2 Realms. However, the giant's power seemed to be limited. Once its power is exhausted, it seemed like it would disappear. I am the guardian spirit of the Golden Palm token. I can fulfill 3 wishes of the bearer of the token within my capabilities. The previous owner of this token, Mengzhen, has already used the first and second wishes. You are the new owner of this token. You can order me to fulfill the last wish of this token for you. After the 3 wishes are fulfilled, this token will self-destruct. Ning Fan's eyes sparkled. When he first obtained this token, he could already feel that there was an unimaginably massive power within the token that expressed its will to submit to him. This power was so massive that it gave Ning Fan an illusion that if he wanted to, he could even directly kill an immortal emperor with this power. One has to know that even though the origin energy was powerful, it only had the possibility of heavily injuring an immortal emperor. However, the power contained within this token was far greater than a single strand of origin energy. Of course, Ning Fan could also vaguely sense that this golden flame ancestral token was not only useful for killing. It could also be used for many other purposes. Before he went into seclusion, he inquired about the golden palm token from Dolan and was deeply shocked. The so-called Flame Ancestor Golden Palm token was the status symbol of the Flame Ancestor's successor. Only an extremely small number of heaven-gifted 3 flame cultivators could obtain this token when they passed the Flame Ancestor's trial. The Ancestor of Flame was the name of the evil corpse that was slashed by the sage. He was the ancestor of all 3 flame cultivators. Legend has it that although the Flame Ancestor was the evil corpse of a sage, his cultivation level had not reached the 3rd step. However, with his ancient cultivation level, he had severely injured a sage, causing the sage to fall several reincarnations ahead of time. This was enough to show his power. Legend has it that the Flame Ancestor had a unique comprehension towards creation and destruction. The Flame Ancestor Golden Palm token he created could fulfill 3 wishes of anyone who held it. Of course, it had to be within the scope of the Golden Palm token's ability. He could ask the Golden Palm token to raise his cultivation. He could ask for magic treasures, pills and cultivation methods from the Golden Palm token. He could also ask the Golden Palm token to kill someone for him. It was said that in ancient times, there was a Skyflame Devil's son who made a wish and eventually killed an 8 tribulation immortal emperor of the Holy Mountain. It caused a sensation for a period of time. As long as Ning Fan made a wish, the guardian spirit of the Golden Palm token could kill even an immortal emperor in front of him. Of course, it was not certain whether he could kill the immortal emperor or not. After all, as time passed, the power of the Golden Palm token would be eroded bit by bit. It was no longer as powerful as it used to be. To Ning Fan, this Flame Ancestor Golden Palm token was much stronger than his sure chi to protect himself. He believed that as long as he had this token, even the immortal emperors of the despicable clan would not dare to do anything to him. At the same time, Ning Fan was secretly relieved. If Meng Zhen used the Golden Palm token to kill him right from the beginning, it would certainly bring him great danger. Unfortunately, Meng Zhen was reluctant to use it. He wanted to kill Ning Fan with the power of the Seal of the 2 Realms. In the end, Ning Fan reversed the situation by tossing him into the Seal of the 2 Realms and burning him to death. Thus, the token became Ning Fan's advantage. If I make a wish to upgrade my 12 Darkness True Flame to Innate True Flame, can you fulfill it too? Ning Fan suddenly asked. Of course. Are you sure you want to fulfill this wish? The giant spirit of the Golden Palm token asked in a stiff tone. Is there any drawback to this kind of upgrade? Ning Fan asked again. It will only damage my foundation. The giant spirit of the Golden Palm token answered. The Golden Palm token could increase one's cultivation base and upgrade one's abilities. However, it would be forcefully increased through a method similar to enlightenment. It would greatly damage one's foundation. If the Golden Palm token is used to upgrade the flame might be stuck at the same level for the rest of its life. The same goes for one's cultivation base. As a result, Ning Fan's originally burning heart cooled down a lot. He said regretfully, if the prerequisite is to damage my foundation, then I will forget about this matter. After thinking for a while, he continued, if I make a wish to upgrade my true flame to the level of a saint flame, can you fulfill it? The reason he asked this question was to find out the limit of the Golden Palm token's ability. I can't. At most, I can help you upgrade your flame to the mid-grade innate true flame. The giant spirit of the Golden Palm token answered indifferently. If I make a wish to upgrade my ancient god, demon, and devil cultivation base to the eternal immortal venerable realm, can I fulfill it? Indeed, I can't. At most, I can only upgrade one of your cultivation bases to the zero tribulation immortal venerable realm. It will still damage your foundation. It was already considered an extremely terrifying upgrade. Unfortunately, the drawbacks were too great. Ning Fan thought for a while and asked again, if I want to open my eyes and see the world that only the people of the true world can see, can you help me achieve this? No. This matter is way beyond my ability. If I ask you to kill someone, what's the highest cultivation base you can kill? This token has existed for too long. If it's at its peak, it can kill everything below the quasi-sage realm. Now, it can only kill a 6th tribulation immortal emperor realm cultivator. If the other party is good at defense and escaping, there's still a possibility of failure. That's not bad. In other words, if the other party is a sixth tribulation immortal emperor with slightly weaker abilities, or if the other party is careless, there's still a high chance that they can be killed. What a terrifying token. It can even kill an immortal emperor realm cultivator. Moreover, this token is not at its peak. If it's in ancient times, the scariness of this token is simply unimaginable. Ning Fan did not ask any further questions. The giant spirit of the golden palm token also bowed to him and returned to the token indifferently. There was no need for him to refine this token. Ning Fan directly swallowed it into his stomach and stored it in his dantian. He would not make the same mistake as Meng Zhen and let others take the token away. Ning Fan had yet to decide how to use this token. After thinking for a while, he decided to keep this token for the time being as a life-saving item when he travels the world. Duo Lan, you can come in now. After doing all this, Ning Fan sent a voice transmission to Duo Lan, who was outside the formation of the medicinal pool, and opened a passage. Duo Lan took a deep breath and walked into the medicinal pool as if he had just made an important decision. After that, the formation was closed. The Tamu people outside immediately began to make a ruckus. Could it be that Lord Ning has already ended his seclusion? But why did he call Lord Duolan in alone? Just as I thought, Lord Ning and Lord Duolan are having an affair. Could it be that he wants to have sex in a place like the medicinal pool? That's really blasphemous to the medicine Buddha. A few hotheads wanted to remind Ning Fan that they were not allowed to have sex in the land of Buddha. Their actions immediately enraged Xian Yu Chun. All of you, get lost. Get away from here. Don't disturb my master and master's wife. Xian Yu Chun regained his usual demeanor of a young thug. With a ferocious look, he chased the Tamu people away from the territory of the Tamu clan. He was a good disciple of the 24 filial exemplars. How could he allow others to disturb his master and master's wife? So what if this is the land of Buddha? Inside the medicinal pool, Ning Fan naturally could not have sex with Duolan. He was not in the mood for that. Compared to this matter, he was more concerned about the coordinates of the stone seat. It's time for you to give me an explanation. What are the coordinates of the stone seat? Ning Fan's eyes narrowed slightly, giving Duolan a huge sense of pressure. Duolan's small face turned slightly pale. She did not dare to lie to Ning Fan. The impression that Ning Fan gave her was just too cruel and ruthless. Once she lies, she did not know what kind of consequences she would face. Knowing that she could no longer keep this secret, Duolan knelt in front of Ning Fan. Senior Ning, I can give you the coordinates of the stone seat. But please agree to a request of Duolan. Otherwise, even if you kill Duolan, you will only get a corpse. I have no interest in agreeing to your request. I'm also not determined to get the coordinates of the stone seat. I'm just a little curious. Why can't I see any information about the coordinates of the stone seat from your mind? Let me ask you again. What are the coordinates of the stone seat? Chapter 10:14. Senior, don't be anxious. Let me explain slowly. Duolan took a few deep breaths, trying her best to make herself feel less afraid when facing Ning Fan. Then, a look of reminiscence flashed across her face. There's a sacred place in our tribe called the Sacred Mountain Tomb, which was formed by the sacred ancestors' will. Inside the sacred mountain is a secret realm, known as the Stone Path Secret Realm. There are 12 mausoleum veins in the secret realm, making it an excellent place for cultivation. It is also the item that cultivators of the sacred mountain have bitterly fought over in the past mausoleum wars. I believe Senior already knows about this. Other than the 12 mausoleum veins, the thing that attracts the most attention in the mausoleum is the stone seat. Previously, when Senior searched through this junior's memories, I presumed that my memories regarding the sacred mountain were very vague. This is where the sacred mountain's abilities lie, especially the coordinates of the stone seat. Without a special ancient method to read it, it is impossible to see it in this junior's memories. Ning Fan nodded his head. It was no wonder that he could not find the coordinates of the stone seat when he used the soul search technique previously. As expected, it was because of the sacred mountain again. The stone throne, its full name is the Sacred Ancient Stone Throne. It's located in the secret realm of the sacred mountain, and it's the place where the sacred ancestor sealed his belongings before his death. Each of the sacred ancient stone seats had relics of the sacred sages. Some of them were left behind, some were left behind by the sacred ancient stones. There are medicinal pills, divine arts, comprehension, and all kinds of strange things, but all of them are peerless treasures. So it turns out that the ancient sacred stone is where the relics of the saints are kept. Ning Fan was slightly surprised. Even the immortal emperors of the sacred mountain, who have studied the mausoleum for many years, do not dare to wander around inside. Once they get lost, it is said that the consequences are very terrible. I also heard from my father that only a few experts who get lost in the secret realm are lucky enough to walk back. Most of them, however, will have their consciousness taken away by the saint's will and become a walking corpse. They will wander the depths of the mausoleum forever until they die. There is no lack of immortal emperors among them. Even immortal emperors would become walking corpses if they were lost. Ning Fan was a little surprised. The sacred mountain mausoleum was actually this dangerous. My father once said that those immortal emperors who were reduced to walking corpses were under the most powerful illusion technique of the sacred ancestor when he was still alive, the 10,000 decays. Speaking of the name of this illusion technique, Duo Lan's face suddenly became a little more spirited, a little more solemn, a little more reverent, and a little more national pride. 10,000 recitations, 1 decade. The strongest illusion technique of the sacred ancestor. It was the most powerful divine ability of all the despicable people. The Stone Path secret realm is the pinnacle of formations and illusions. It's filled with confusion, and the terrain changes rapidly. Without the coordinates, it's impossible to walk in there. As of now, the mighty beings of the sacred mountain have only confirmed 174 coordinates within the tomb, including the coordinates of the tomb's entrance, the 12 mausoleum veins, some ancient ruins, and the coordinates of the sacred ancient stone. No one knows how many holy ancient stone seats there are in the Stone Path secret domain, but so far, 126 holy ancient stone seats have been discovered. The first ancient holy stone contains a nameless ancient pill. The person who discovered it was a 6th tribulation immortal emperor. After consuming the pill, he immediately went into seclusion. In less than 100 years, he came out as a 7th tribulation immortal emperor. What kind of elixir was that? It actually allowed a celestial emperor's cultivation to increase by a small realm in just 100 years. The second ancient sacred stone seat contains an enlightenment that allowed an ancient 7th tribulation immortal emperor to reach the first level of one with the heavens. There was actually such a good thing. The third ancient sacred stone seat contains a mid-grade innate magical treasure. The fourth ancient sacred stone seat contains a 10th revolution pill. Unfortunately, it's just a healing pill. There was actually a legendary 10th revolution pill. It's a pity that the 5th ancient sacred stone seat has been robbed before. The 6th ancient sacred stone seat contains a trace of primordial chi. The 7th ancient sacred stone seat has also been robbed. The 8th ancient sacred stone seat actually contains part of the formation structure of the seal of 2 realms. The 9th, the 10th, most cultivators had a photographic memory. Thus, Duo Lan was able to recite all the information about the 126 stone seats effortlessly. He did not make a single mistake. The more Ning Fan listened, the more excited he became about the ancient sacred stone seats. Duo Lan had the coordinates of 7 stone seats. If he could read the coordinates, he would be able to enter the tomb to search for treasures and find the 7 relics of the saints. However, when he remembered that there were quite a number of old monsters who were plotting against Duo Lan's coordinates, Ning Fan's excitement cooled down. Up until now, the people who coveted the 7 coordinates were the 3 flames, the fire spirit race and the great emperors of the sacred mountain who had colluded with the 3 flames. This matter was too troublesome. If Ning Fan keeps Duo Lan's coordinates for himself, he would probably be targeted by countless people in the dark. The priority of this trip was to save Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. Before that, Ning Fan did not plan to cause any unnecessary trouble. Moreover, he did not have the qualifications to enter the tomb and he did not have the ancient method to read the coordinates. Instead of coveting the relics of the saints, it would be better for him to complete the objective of this trip first. I heard that reading the coordinates of the stone seats requires some ancient methods. Is that true? Ning Fan asked. That's right. The coordinates of the stone seats are divided into time coordinates and space coordinates. Only the Three Flames clans know how to read the space coordinates while the ancient method to read the time coordinates is in the hands of the fire spirit race. There are also a few immortal emperors of the sacred mountain who know how to read the ancient method. It seems like just reading the coordinates is going to be very troublesome. Ning Fan shook his head. Time was rather tight for him to enter the sacred region this time. He did not have much energy to waste on the coordinates of the stone seats. However, if there are other experts who attack you in the future, I might not be able to protect you. Ning Fan said to Duo Lan helplessly. This Duo Lan was definitely troublesome. As long as he keeps Duo Lan by his side, there would certainly be a third, fourth, or even more people who would come after him and get closer to him. The Three Flames had already failed twice. If they come after him for the third time, they would certainly target him and would not be careless anymore. It was highly likely that they would send out more immortal venerables from the ancient times or even immortal kings and immortal emperors. How would Ning Fan deal with them then? Could it be that he had to abandon this troublesome Duo Lan? Duo Lan's small face was a little pale. How could she not hear the hesitation in Ning Fan's words? She said bitterly, if Senior thinks that Duo Lan is a hindrance, Duo Lan is willing to leave on my own. I won't give Senior any trouble. This was very interesting. Originally, Duo Lan could not wait to break free from Ning Fan's evil clutches. Now, she was somewhat reliant on Ning Fan's protection. Ning Fan shook his head. Duo Lan had witnessed him killing Pai Xiong with her own eyes. He did not trust her at all. Even though bringing Duo Lan along would bring him more trouble, he would not feel at ease letting her go. I'm also worried about letting you go. Forget it. You should still stay by my side. Duo Lan felt a little bitter. Senior is actually worried about letting me go. Hee hee. If I'm in his shoes, I probably won't feel at ease either. Forget it. It's good that I can rely on Senior's protection. At least it's safer than being alone. After all, I can't return to the sacred mountain unless I can represent Chu Lai's bloodline in the third round of the mausoleum seizing competition and achieve an outstanding performance. I still want to rest for a while. You can leave now. Ning Fan ordered. Yes. Duo Lan walked out of the medicinal pool respectfully. Just as she was about to leave the pool completely, a ray of purplish-black light suddenly flew towards her. Duo Lan halted her footsteps and reached out her hand to catch it. It was a purplish-black feather that was condensed from the power of illusion technique. When I'm resting, I won't be able to divert my attention to protect you. You just need to take my feather of illusion technique and hide inside the belly of the stone dragon. With the sturdiness of the stone dragon's belly, you won't be in danger even if the third hunt comes. Duo Lan's heart trembled slightly. Am I being cared for by someone? By the cold and selfish Ning Fan? Is it because of the coordinates of the stone seat or is there another purpose? You don't need to be suspicious. The reason why I'm giving you a place to hide is because you are my soul-locking slave. Even though I don't like you, I won't allow my people to be killed so easily. Ning Fan's words carried a hint of dominance. Ning Fan's men could not be killed by others without knowing the reason. No one can. Duo Lan tightened her grip on Huan Yu's hand and thanked Ning Fan calmly. When she walked out of the medicinal pool, she could not help but feel a trace of warmth in her heart. Perhaps. Senior Ning is a good person. Suddenly, when she thought of her senior brother's death, Duo Lan felt a little gloomy. How could she have a good impression of a devil lord? A devil lord is a devil after all. After learning about the coordinates of the stone seat, the doubts in Ning Fan's mind were finally resolved. After resting in the medicinal pool for a few more days, he finally walked out of it. The stone dragon that he had subdued in the past was now hiding at the bottom of the grassland. As for Duolan, she had already used her earth escape technique to go underground and hide inside the belly of the stone dragon. There were still some people waiting for Ning Fan outside, and one of them was Xian Yuchun. It was unknown if Xian Yuchun was really stupid or just pretending to be. Usually, he did not do many things thoughtfully. However, when it came to serving Ning Fan, he did everything well and no one could find any flaws in his actions. Ning Fan found it a little hard to accept Xian Yuchun's enthusiasm. When he noticed that there was an immortal venerate waiting for him in the Tower Wood tribe, he directly sent Xian Yuchun back to the Evil Goat tribe to recuperate. This fellow had suffered quite serious injuries during the Fire Soul rampage. What was he trying to do by loitering around here instead of recuperating? Since Ning Fan had ended his seclusion, the people of the Tower Wood tribe naturally treated him with great enthusiasm and held a banquet to welcome him. During the banquet, Venerate Si Jing, who had been waiting here for many days, also showed up. This person's tone was extremely polite. However, deep in his heart, he more or less disdained external cultivators. He just did not show it on his face. After all, Ning Fan was a distinguished guest that the great emperor of Tian capital wanted to invite. Ning Fan did not mind Si Jing's attitude. After 3 rounds of wine, Venerate Si Jing suddenly dismissed everyone. He took out a golden invitation and passed it to Ning Fan with a smile. This time, I came here for 2 reasons. One is to reward the Tower Wood and the other is to deliver this item on behalf of the great emperor of Tian capital. This is the invitation to the ancient Buddha meeting. It will be held 3 days before the minor competition in the Middle Province. Venerate D has said that if fellow Taoist Ning has the time, you might as well come to the ancient Buddha meeting for a chat. Ancient Buddha meeting? Ning Fan had heard about the great emperor of Tian capital and the ancient Buddha meeting. Therefore, he was a little surprised. The ancient Buddha conclave was a grand gathering of Buddhism and Taoism in the middle ground. It had extremely strict requirements for the participants and was known as the 3 Dan Ts. Cultivators below the immortal venerable realm were not allowed to be invited. Those who were not members of the Great Desolate clan were not allowed to be invited. Those who were not masters of the Buddha Tao were not allowed to be invited. If one could not fulfill these 3 requirements, even if he was a cultivator of the sacred mountain, he would not be invited. Logically speaking, as an external cultivator, Ning Fan did not have the right to participate in the ancient Buddha meeting at all. He did not expect that he would actually be invited by someone. Moreover, he was even invited by the great emperor of Tian capital, who was known as the Stubborn Rock of the Middle Province. The reason why this person was called the Stubborn Rock was naturally because of his stubborn personality. This person discriminated against external cultivators. Due to his personality, he hated others who broke the rules the most. However, such a person actually broke the rules for an external cultivator and invited him to participate in the ancient Buddha meeting. What exactly is the purpose of the great emperor of Tian capital doing this? Ning Fan stroked the invitation in his hand and muttered to himself. Seeing that Ning Fan was still hesitant about participating in the ancient Buddha meeting, Si Jing immediately felt a little dissatisfied. There were countless old monsters in the Great Desolate clan who desired to participate in the ancient Buddha meeting, but they could not. This external cultivator in front of him had the honor of making the Venerate D make an exception, but he still hesitated. He really did not know what was good for him. Si Jing's heart was filled with dissatisfaction. Unfortunately, he was not a person who liked to talk too much. Thus, he did not argue with Ning Fan. However, he also did not want to stay in this place for a long time. Originally, he wanted to exchange some cultivation experiences with Ning Fan, the immortal venerate of the ancient times. Now, however, he was in a hurry to leave. If it wasn't because he still had some instructions from the great emperor of Tian capital, he would have already left. The Venerate D also asked me to warn fellow Taoist Ning that you have completely offended someone in the middle state by breaking through the stone flame volcano. If you come to the middle state, you must be careful of the cold arrows from the top of the building. The cold arrows from the top of the building are referring to Great Emperor Lu Tua, right? Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly gloomy. However, he did not say anything and just nodded his head. One more thing. The Venerate D asked me to warn fellow Daoist Ning that Meng Zhen's death will not be easily resolved. The Three Flames will certainly look into this matter. According to a reliable source, fellow Daoist Ning has already become a great enemy with the 11th bounty on the wanted list of the Three Flames. Ugh! He was actually wanted by the Three Flames. Fortunately, it was difficult for the Three Flames to walk out of the ominous domain. If he was wanted by the 5 emperors of the Middle State, it would be quite troublesome. From the looks of it, even without Duo Lan, the Three Flames would not let him go. However, would Ning Fan be afraid of trouble that he could not avoid? Thank you, fellow Daoist, for telling me about this. Ning Fan thanked Si Jing. You don't have to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Great Emperor Tian Du. Si Jing's attitude became very indifferent. After exchanging a few more words with Ning Fan, he left. Is this person blaming me for underestimating the ancient Buddha assembly? After Si Jing left, Ning Fan shook his head helplessly. However, he did not take Si Jing's temper to heart. Si Jing was also a person with a true temperament. That was why he would show his emotions on his face. Unfortunately, he could not expect a devil cultivator like Ning Fan to be interested in a Buddha assembly that he could not coexist with, right? Moreover, Great Emperor Tian Du might have his own plans in this matter. Ning Fan could not help but think about it further. No one would believe that Great Emperor Tian Du did not have his own plans. Of course, putting everything aside, Ning Fan was actually a little interested in the ancient Buddha assembly. According to Ta Mu Ren's introduction, in a grand event like the ancient Buddha assembly in the Middle State, each of the invited great experts would be able to taste the ancient Buddha Dao fruit, which could improve their cultivation base significantly. It was said that other than tasting the Dao fruit in the ancient Buddha assembly, there would also be a small-scale trading event for immortal venerables and above. I can use the things that I do not need to exchange for other people's treasures. Of course, Ning Fan would go to this ancient Buddha assembly. If he does not go, Great Emperor Tian Du would still use other methods to achieve his goal. Instead of that, he might as well find out what was going on in the ancient Buddha assembly. Since Great Emperor Tian Du had invited him openly, he would not have any evil intentions even if he had some ulterior motives. Otherwise, he might be plotting against him in the dark. Of course, in order to participate in the ancient Buddha assembly, he would first have to go to the Middle State. There was still some time before the second round of the grand competition in the Middle State. However, it was pointless for Ning Fan to stay in the Ta Mu clan. Thus, he might as well go to the Middle State as soon as possible. In the grand competition in the Middle State, Ning Fan still needed to represent the Ta Mu clan. However, he did not need the other participants to go with him. Unlike the first round, which focused on the overall results, from the second round onwards, individual results would be more important. The other members of the Ta Mu clan could only blame themselves for being too weak. Even if they go, it would be useless as they would be eliminated before the second round. Thus, it was better to stay in the Ta Mu clan and wait for Ning Fan's good news. A few more days passed. For the grand competition in the Middle State this time, we won't be going with Lord Ning. When you arrive at the Middle State, there will naturally be someone to receive you. These fire crystals are a small token of our Ta Mu clan. Please accept them, Lord. The clan leader of the Ta Mu clan, Tagli, took out a heavy storage pouch and handed it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan scanned the pouch with his spirit sense and immediately sighed. All the fire crystals that the Ta Mu clan had obtained as rewards this time were actually all inside. Not only that, there were also millions of medicine soul stones, various types of pills, medicinal herbs and 3 bottles of medicine marrow. The 3 bottles of medicine marrow that was close to 10,000 years old contained no less than 100 drops. These things. Ning Fan was a little hesitant. He did not immediately accept these things. After all, in the eyes of a cultivator with the level of immortal venerables like him, the Ta Mu clan was too small and too poor. He was too embarrassed to plunder their land. These are the token of our Ta Mu clan. Lord Ning, Please don't reject it. We, the Tamu clan, have gotten rid of the fate of being at the bottom for 10,000 years and obtained the honor of being the first clan in the southern border. We are already very satisfied. These are all thanks to Lord Ning. Besides, if it wasn't for Lord Ning, I would have already died in the Fire Soul riot. If we don't repay Lord Ning's kindness to our Tamu clan and the southern border, we won't be able to feel at ease. Tagli sounded extremely solemn. Ning Fan remained silent for a while and accepted the storage pouch. Then, he waved goodbye to each of the Tamu clan's people. After leaving the Tamu clan this time, he probably would not return again. Master, can I go to the middle state with you? Xian Yu-chun suddenly appeared from the crowd of the Tamu clan. Ning Fan was a little speechless. Aren't you a member of the Xiaoyang clan? What are you trying to do by staying in the Tamu clan all the time? Unlike the time when his position in the Xiaoyang clan was in a precarious situation, the current Xian Yu-chun had received unanimous praise from the stubborn elders of the clan. They were very supportive of him befriending Ning Fan. After all, Ning Fan was the benefactor of the entire southern border, including the Xiaoyang clan. I have a lot of things to do. I don't have the time to take care of you. Ning Fan shook his head and refused. No. I don't need Master to take care of me. Besides, the reason why I'm going to the middle state is not to pester you. I have an appointment with someone. Of course, when the middle state grand competition begins, I will certainly go and cheer for you. Something else? Ning Fan was surprised. He thought that Xian Yu-chun wanted to pester him. The journey to the middle state is too far. With my cultivation base, it will take me at least 1.5 years to get there. That's why I want Master to bring me along. If that's the case, it's not impossible for me to bring you along. However, when we arrive at the middle state, you must be careful when you act alone. Don't forget that the ominous realm was plotted against by someone. Ning Fan reminded him. Xian Yu-chun was being targeted by someone. Staying in the southern border was naturally not as safe as going out. Don't worry, Master. When we arrive at the middle state, there will naturally be an old man who sells water vats to protect me. He and I are very familiar with each other, an old man who sells water vats. It doesn't sound very reliable. Perhaps it's some old monster who sells water vats in the marketplace in order to gain enlightenment. However, since Xian Yu-chun had his own plans, Ning Fan did not need to worry about him blindly. Even though he did not plan to accept him as a disciple, he still had some gratitude towards Xian Yu-chun for breaking through to the next realm because of his roar. By the way, how did Master know that I was being plotted against by someone in the ominous realm? Could it be that you heard it from the people of my tribe? Or perhaps you knew everything about the heavens and the earth? Yes, that must be it. Master is really a divine being. Xian Yu-chun's admiration for Ning Fan grew even stronger. Ning Fan was a little speechless. He no longer wanted to talk nonsense with Xian Yu-chun. I'm finished. I forgot. The old man who sells water vats told me not to tell anyone about him. Xian Yu-chun beat his chest and stamped his feet in frustration. Why is my mouth so loose? Forget it. Anyway, I'm telling it to my master. So what if I let it slip? Ning Fan did not pay attention to Xian Yu-chun's noise. He brought Xian Yu-chun and went underground. After going underground for an unknown period of time, they suddenly bumped into a massive object that was as hard as iron in the darkness. It was the stone dragon that was hiding underground. With a leap, Ning Fan carried Xian Yu-chun and flew into the abdomen of the stone dragon. As for the stone dragon, it was writhing in pain, as if it wanted to chase Ning Fan out of its stomach. It would not allow its master's murderer to hide in its stomach and control it. Be quiet. Ning Fan gave an order. The complicated illusion technique that was planted in the stone dragon's sea of consciousness began to operate, causing the stone dragon to lose his consciousness again. What a difficult fellow to tame. From the southern border to the middle province, one would need to cross more than 20 grasslands. Moreover, the closer one is to the middle province, the stronger the forbidden power of the sky would be. If Ning Fan's cultivation base was not sealed, he could still fly all the way to the middle province. However, with his current cultivation base, he could not ignore the forbidden power of the grasslands near the middle province. When low-grade cultivators came to a place where they couldn't fly, they would hire spirit beast carriages and use them to travel to the central state. Ning Fan had the earth escape technique of the 100 Lily Stone Dragon. Thus, he naturally did not need to go through so much trouble. However, with the speed of the Stone Dragon's earth escape, it would probably take them a few days to reach the middle province. During these few days, Xianyu Chun was sleeping soundly in the Stone Dragon's stomach while Duo Lan was frowning beside Ning Fan. The closer they got to the middle province, the more troubled they became. As for Ning Fan, he absorbed a large amount of energy from the fire crystals during the journey. To fire cultivators, the fire crystals in the bodies of the Fire Spirit clan were precious cultivation treasures. Ning Fan had already obtained quite a number of fire crystals during the martial test. Adding the fire crystals that Tamu gave him, he had nearly 4,000 true crossing fire crystals, 500 void abandonment fire crystals and 90 thought fragmenting fire crystals. Fire cultivators could absorb the fire elemental power within the fire crystals to increase the grade of their flames. However, to Ning Fan, whose devil flame had reached the 12th adoration devil flame, absorbing the true crossing fire crystals did not have much of an effect. Usually, he would need to absorb more than 100 fire crystals to improve his devil flame slightly. After absorbing more than 4,000 true crossing fire crystals, the grade of his devil flame had only become much more stable. It did not improve much. With the grade of Ning Fan's devil flame, the absorption speed of the void abandonment fire crystals was also extremely fast. After absorbing the 500 void abandonment fire crystals, Ning Fan was surprised to find out that a wisp of dark green flame was actually born in his 12th adoration devil flame. The number of this kind of dark green flame was not much. As it was submerged in his devil flame, it was almost invisible. However, Ning Fan did not dare to underestimate this flame. The changes of the Tao laws contained in this flame were extremely complicated, far beyond Ning Fan's understanding. Vaguely, Ning Fan felt that this dark green flame was somewhat familiar. Suddenly, he realized something. Isn't this the flame from the Seal of the Two Realms? The dark green flame in the Seal of the Two Realms was left behind by the saint. The Fire Spirit clan was a clan that was born after the saint's flame was shattered. The two of them were originally related. Now that Ning Fan had absorbed the fire crystals in the bodies of the Fire Spirit clan, the dark green flame that was born was naturally extremely similar to the flame in the Seal of the Two Realms. The amount of this flame was too little. It was so little that cultivators with weak naked eyes could barely see it. However, Ning Fan did not dare to ignore the destructive power of this flame. If he uses the same amount of devil flame as him to fight against this dark green flame, the result would be his devil flame being devoured by it without a doubt. Obviously, the destructive power of this dark green flame was much stronger than Ning Fan's devil flame. After refining the void renunciation fire crystals, Ning Fan began to refine the thought fragment fire crystals. Unlike the void renunciation fire crystals, each time he devours a piece of the thought fragment fire crystals, it would add a wisp of dark green flame to his devil flame. After refining all of the fire crystals, the destructive power of Ning Fan's devil flame had increased by nearly 5%. As for the dark green flame in his devil flame, it had also increased to the size of an infant's fist. It was no longer just one or two wisps of flames. Unfortunately, this amount of dark green flame still can't be used in actual combat. If I could have more. Ning Fan muttered to himself for a moment. Then, he began to stabilize the grade of the flame. Another 2 days passed. The stone dragon that was 100 Li suddenly crashed into some kind of barrier. Its momentum was stopped. The impact of the collision caused a rumbling earthquake, startling countless birds, cows, and sheep on the ground. Ning Fan became slightly vigilant. He spread his spirit sense and his expression relaxed. It was not the pursuit of the Triflames. Instead, He had arrived at the boundary of the Middle State. How audacious of you! How dare you crash into the grand formation of the Middle State? At the border of the Middle State, a cultivator with a large beard let out a cold harumph and slightly waved his hand. Immediately, several strong cultivators with powerful auras appeared behind him. The weakest among them was at the life-immortal realm. Go underground and capture the person who crashed into the grand formation. I don't care if he's dead or alive. Chapter 10:15. Those strong men answered and were about to dive into the ground to capture them. Unfortunately, before they could move, Ning Fan's group had already reached the surface while the stone dragon was still lurking in the ground. The strong men immediately became alert. Without a doubt, Ning Fan's group was the madman who crashed into the formation at the border of the Middle State. Each of the strong men moved with a swooshing sound. In just an instant, they occupied all the positions and surrounded the three of them. Their movements were in sync with each other's. Ning Fan felt a little helpless. He did not expect to get himself into some trouble even before he entered the Middle State. Speaking of which, did that stone dragon purposely crash into the grand formation at the border? Didn't it know how to avoid it? Most of the strong men in front of him were only at the life-immortal realm. Duo Lan frowned slightly and released a trace of shedding void chi. The strong men immediately became alert. Experts who were shedding void chi were not considered weak in any grassland. Obviously, this group of people had a powerful background. But so what? They were just a group of foreigners after all. How could they be compared to the cultivators of the Middle State who had a noble status? The strong men revealed arrogant expressions. That was the superiority of the people of the Middle State. When they faced the other cultivators of the grassland, they often showed regional discrimination. Ning Fan was slightly speechless. Cultivators from other regions would be discriminated against by the people of the Middle State. The cultivators of the Holy Mountain would also discriminate against ordinary people of the Middle State. This was probably a characteristic of the Middle State. Which grassland are the three of you cultivators from? How dare you to crash into the formation at the border? Don't you know that this is against the commandment of the Middle State? If you surrender obediently and accept your punishment, we can still give you a lighter punishment. If you dare to resist, don't blame us for torturing you. The strong men's expressions were fierce and threatening. We are cultivators of the southern border. We are here to participate in the grand competition of the Middle State. It is indeed our fault for crashing into the grand formation at the border. According to the commandment of the Middle State, a small crime can be atoned with gold and silver. We are willing to offer gold and silver to make up for our crime. Xian Yu Chun skillfully took out a storage pouch filled with gold and silver. It was not his first time coming to the Middle State. He naturally knew what these people wanted. The expressions of the strong men immediately softened. When they saw that the storage pouch contained more than 1,000,000 taels of gold and silver. When they looked at Xian Yu Chun's eyes, there was a smile that said, "You are very sensible." Ning Fan was slightly speechless. He could not believe that they could solve the dispute in front of him with useless things like gold and silver. Despicable people love gold and silver, just this bit of atonement silver? It's only enough to pardon one person. If you want to pardon 3 people, it's not enough. The bearded commander behind the strong men said coldly. Xian Yu Chun silently cursed the other party for being greedy. He then took out a storage bag filled with gold and silver and handed it to the bearded commander. Another 1,000,000 taels of gold and silver. Greed flashed in the bearded commander's eyes, but he still kept a straight face and deliberately said in a cold voice, "Still not enough." Xian Yu Chun gritted his teeth and handed over another 1,000,000 taels of silver. The bearded commander finally revealed a satisfied smile and patted Xian Yu Chun's shoulder. "I didn't expect younger brother to come from the southern border to actually have such a high net worth, hee. The matter of colliding with the array formation at the border is cleared. You can enter the central plains now." "Oh right, younger brother, do you need a spirit beast carriage?" "I have a batch of high-grade spirit beast carriages here. They were left behind by some cultivators who broke the law in front of us to atone for their crimes. How about I sell one to you cheaply? He had already regarded Xian Yu-chun, who squandered money like dirt, as the leader of the three. Thank you for your kind offer, but we plan to buy a spirit beast carriage after we pass the border. Xian Yu-chun had an expression that said, I have been cheated many times, don't lie to me. That's really a pity. I can't earn another sum of money from this foolish brat. The bearded commander waved his hand. After ordering the strong men to let them pass, Ning Fan's group finally entered the central plains smoothly. Along the way, Xian Yu-chun's face was full of dejection. He had just entered the central plains and he had already lost 3 million taels of gold and silver. He felt a great pain in his heart. Ning Fan naturally would not feel heartache. To him, gold and silver were just stones on the roadside. If he could use gold and silver to solve a problem, then it was not a problem. He could not understand why the despicable people valued gold and silver so much. Duo Lan, on the other hand, felt a little bitter. These soldiers at the border. They actually did not recognize her identity. She was the guardian of the Holy Mountain, the saintess of Chu Lai's lineage. If these soldiers at the border knew her identity, they would not dare to question her even if she did not hand over the gold and silver. That's right. She had left the center of power of Chu Lai's lineage for too long. It had been so long that the cultivators of the Holy Mountain did not put her in their eyes. It had been so long that these soldiers at the border actually did not recognize the saintess. Not far from the border, there was a small city at the border. The three of them arrived at the city on foot. It was not that they did not want to fly, but the restrictive force of the middle state was too strong. Those who were not ancient cultivators would not be able to fly. Other than that, the underground of the middle state was filled with formations, making it extremely difficult to enter the middle state through the earth. Thus, Ning Fan could only leave the stone dragon outside the middle state. The small city in front of them was not more than 10 li in size. There were quite a number of cultivators going in and out of the city. Most of the travelers would buy spirit beast carriages here as a form of transportation. I've seen so many nomadic lives of the people of the Southern Territory. It's really a little unexpected to see a city on the grassland. Ning Fan said with surprise. The grassland of the middle state is a special case in the Debi grassland. In terms of the vastness of the territory, the middle state is ranked first. The people here no longer live in tribes or live as nomads. Instead, they build cities and live in them. The cities are connected by official roads. Within the middle state, there are tens of thousands of small cities and hundreds of middle cities. There is only one big city called Lioli City. It is the Buddhist capital of the middle state. It is the holy land in the eyes of countless Buddhist sects and saints. It is also the place where the grand competitions of the middle state are held. Duo Lan explained respectfully. Of course, she did it through telepathy. She did not want Xian Yu-chun to hear her tone of speaking in such a respectful manner. Lioli City, huh? I wonder if Nguyen Air is waiting for me in Lioli City or somewhere else. Ning Fan felt a little helpless. The entire middle state was filled with an extremely strong restrictive force of the middle state. Those below the level of immortal venerables could not fly in the sky. Therefore, there were not many scenes of people flying across the sky in the middle state. Most of the time, they would travel in spirit beast carriages. In the middle state, there was also a restrictive force that limited the range of the spirit sense of cultivators. Ning Fan tried to activate his rain technique. However, he realized that his rain technique, which had always been successful, could not cover too far. It could only cover a distance of 10,000 li at most. Of course, the reason why it was so severely restricted was because his cultivation base was limited. However, according to Ning Fan's estimation, even if his cultivation base was not restricted, he would not be able to cover the entire middle state with his spirit sense. Unfortunately, Zhang Yu and Ning Fan had agreed to meet in the middle state, but they did not leave the address. As a result, Ning Fan actually had no idea where he should go to find Zhang Yu and Yang Wan. Fortunately, there was a faint connection between the child relic and the mother relic. Ning Fan looked towards the north. He could vaguely sense that Young Won and Zhang Yu were in that general direction. Is Lioli City in the north of the middle state? Ning Fan asked through telepathy. No. Lioli City is located in the extreme west of the middle state. Why do you ask this question, senior? Duo Lan replied through telepathy. I need to go to the north of the middle state to settle some matters. In other words, aren't we going to Lioli City directly? Xian Yu Chun noticed the conversation between Ning Fan and Duo Lan through telepathy. He automatically imagined that the two of them were exchanging glances with each other. His limited intelligence told him that Ning Fan and Duo Lan were probably talking to each other through telepathy. They were probably saying some extremely mushy words of love that they did not want him to hear. Sigh. I'm really muddle-headed. It's so troublesome for me to stand here. I'm completely affecting the progress of the relationship between master and mistress. I've arrived at the middle state. I have an appointment with that old man and it's not on the same route as you. Can I leave first? Xian Yu Chun winked at Ning Fan with an expression that said, Master, I can only help you to this point. Since it's not on the same route, you can go by yourself. Ning Fan nodded and let Xian Yu Chun leave. Xian Yu Chun eagerly entered the city and bought a spiritual beast carriage before leaving. Ning Fan and Duo Lan were alone again. There was no need for them to talk through telepathy. Senior's disciple seems to have misunderstood something. Duo Lan noticed Xian Yu Chun winking at her. With her intelligence, she vaguely guessed that Xian Yu Chun must have misunderstood something. How could she have that kind of relationship with Senior Ning? She's just a soul-locking slave. Xian Yu Chun isn't my disciple. You don't have to care about him. He's just letting his imagination run wild. Let's get down to business. I'm going to the north of the middle state. I don't know where exactly I'm going. However, if I get close to this place, I should be able to confirm it. After I buy a spiritual beast carriage, I'll head north first. Ning Fan said indifferently. Once again, they talked about the itinerary. You don't know the destination but you want to go to the north of the middle state. Duo Lan felt strange. However, she had learned her lesson and did not ask too many questions. He only responded with a respectful, yes. There were quite a number of shops that sold spiritual beast carriages in the city. However, most of them were low-grade spiritual beast carriages. The spiritual beasts that pulled the carriages were only at the life immortal realm or crossing true realm. Naturally, their speed would not be too fast. After searching for a long time, Ning Fan could only find a shop that sold spiritual beast carriages above the void-shedding realm. The name of the shop was Thunder Sound Pavilion. There was a blurred formation outside the pavilion. If one's cultivation level was not high enough, they would not even be able to get close to the pavilion. They could only be stopped outside. Ning Fan, of course, was not afraid of this formation. He calmly brought Duo Lan inside. Every step he took was strangely on the veins of the formation. After taking 3 steps, there was a thunderous sound coming from the formation. However, when Ning Fan casually pointed at it, the thunderous sound disappeared. After taking 7 steps, the thunderous sound resounded again. It actually carried a vast and mighty aura. However, it was still extinguished by Ning Fan with a single step. After taking 9 steps, the thunderous sound was about to resound again. However, Ning Fan had already brought Duo Lan through the layers of formations and entered the Thunder Sound Pavilion. It was just a mere 9 steps. In the end, the thunderous sound in the formation did not condense. It was still suppressed by him. This is a little terrifying. Duo Lan was secretly shocked. Isn't Senior's attainment in formations too high? This is the Thunder Sound's secret restriction of the Thunder Sound Pavilion. Even though this pavilion was just one of the branches of the Thunder Sound lineage and there was only a corner of the formation outside the pavilion, it was still extremely difficult for an ancient immortal venerable to completely suppress the thunderous sound from entering the formation. However, Ning Fan was able to do it easily. In Duo Lan's heart, she could not help but feel a little more respectful towards Ning Fan. When Ning Fan and Duo Lan entered the pavilion, the group of maids who were not prepared at all were shocked. As for the shopkeeper who was taking a nap in the pavilion, he also opened his eyes at this moment. His eyes were filled with astonishment. This was an early thought fragmentation realm expert. However, he was taking up the position of the shopkeeper of the Thunder Sound Pavilion. Ning Fan's eyes narrowed slightly. If this person is not an old monster who lives in the streets, it means that the foundation of this Thunder Sound Pavilion is too strong. It is enough to make the thought fragmentation realm the shopkeeper. Your attainment in formations is really high. You can actually ignore the formation and enter the Thunder Sound Pavilion. Forgive me for my poor eyesight, but I don't seem to have seen you in the Sacred Mountain before. Could it be that you are a cultivator from the Debay tribe? The shopkeeper cupped his fists politely and asked. Inwardly, he was secretly guessing Ning Fan's identity. With such a terrifying technique, he could directly suppress the Thunder Sound's secret restriction and enter the pavilion. It is impossible for him to be a nobody. Why does he look so unfamiliar? Suddenly, his gaze fell upon Duo Lan and he was surprised again. Isn't this the Saintess Chu Lai? The declining saintess of a declining lineage. The shopkeeper withdrew his gaze. The disdain in his eyes was still caught by Duo Lan. Duo Lan felt a little bitter, but she still sent a telepathic message to Ning Fan. The Thunder Sound lineage is the #1 branch in the Sacred Mountain. There are 4 immortal emperors in the clan. Their strength far surpasses my Chu Lai's lineage. This Thunder Sound Pavilion is one of the businesses of the Thunder Sound lineage. When we come here to buy a spiritual beast carriage, we must be polite. We must not offend the Thunder Sound Pavilion. Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly solemn. The Thunder Sound lineage is the #1 branch in the Sacred Mountain. With 4 immortal emperors in the clan. No wonder this Thunder Sound Pavilion can make a thought fragmentation realm cultivator the shopkeeper. It seems that the spiritual beast carriages they are selling are not for those low-grade cultivators. I'm not a cultivator from the Debay tribe. I'm a cultivator from the outside world. This time, I'm representing the Towerwood clan of the southern border to participate in the competition in the Middle State. Ning Fan answered honestly. He did not feel that his identity as an external cultivator was inferior to others. The shopkeeper immediately frowned. His attitude towards Ning Fan was no longer as polite as it was in the beginning. So what if you can suppress the Thunder Sound in the secret restriction? You are just an external cultivator. You are even worse than the declining Chu Lai. Are you here to buy a spiritual beast carriage? Our Thunder Sound Pavilion is different from the shops in the outside world. We don't accept gold or silver. We only accept items of equivalent value. Do you know this rule? The shopkeeper asked impatiently. This is the first time I heard that the Great Humble Tribe has a shop that allows people to barter. Ning Fan's temperament was not to be angered by the shopkeeper's attitude. If an external cultivator is here to buy a spiritual beast carriage, the requirements are even harsher. The items used to exchange for a spiritual beast carriage must be pills of equivalent value. We don't want anything else. Hee, although my tribe looks down on you external cultivators, we still value your pills very much. Here. This is the price list. Take a look yourself. If you like a spiritual beast carriage, use pills of equivalent value to exchange for it. Also, there are some pills that our pavilion doesn't accept. The types of pills that we don't accept are recorded in this scroll. Take a look yourself. The shopkeeper casually threw 2 scrolls to Ning Fan. Then, he ignored Ning Fan and continued to pretend to sleep. The first scroll. It recorded the detailed information of all the spiritual beast carriages in the Thunder Sound Pavilion. At the same time, it marked the price. The spiritual beast carriage drawn on the scroll was not static. It was moving. The wheels would roll forward from time to time. The spirit beast that pulled the carriage would occasionally roar towards the sky. The sound could be vaguely heard from the scroll. Ning Fan roughly scanned the prices of these spiritual beast carriages. According to the materials used for the carriages and the grade of the spirit beast, the prices of the spiritual beast carriages were quite different. However, there was one fixed point. Void-shedding rank spiritual beast carriages could only be traded with 9 transformations silver pills. The prices ranged from 1 silver pill to 20 silver pills. If other people came to the Thunder Sound Pavilion to buy a spiritual beast carriage, they could use other items to barter. However, Eastern Sky cultivators who came here had to exchange pills. Naturally, this was the method that the Thunder Sound Pavilion used to obtain the Eastern Heaven pills. Since ancient times, Ning Fan was not the only external cultivator who had purchased a spiritual beast carriage from the Thunder Sound Pavilion. Countless Eastern Heaven pills had already fallen into the hands of the Thunder Sound Pavilion. Since the Thunder Sound Pavilion had restricted the types of pills, it meant that they were not after the pills themselves but the pill recipes behind the pills. Ning Fan looked at the second scroll. It was marked with the pills that the Thunder Sound Pavilion refused to trade. According to Ning Fan's guess, these pills that refused to trade were most likely already obtained by the Thunder Sound Pavilion. After studying them thoroughly, they obtained the pill recipes, so they did not need them anymore. After eliminating the types of pills on the scroll, Ning Fan's storage pouch still had a lot of pills that met the trading rules of the Thunder Sound Pavilion and could be exchanged for the spiritual beast carriages. However, there was one thing that Ning Fan was quite concerned about on the second scroll. There were 13 types of 9 transformation silver pills that were newly added. The ink was still very fresh, not more than 3 months old. Apart from these 4 types of pills, the other pills' handwriting was very old. In other words, within these 3 months, there were external cultivators who used 9 transformation silver pills to exchange for the 13 spiritual beast carriages of the Thunder Sound Pavilion. Apart from him, were there other Eastern Sky cultivators who entered this place? Or perhaps, the person who exchanged the spiritual beast carriages was not an external cultivator and just happened to have Eastern Sky pills and traded them to the Thunder Sound Pavilion. However, it was not impossible for it to be an external cultivator. First of all, Ouyang Nguyen and Zhang Yu's group must have come to the middle state. However, even if Old Wu was included, they would not need 13 spiritual beast carriages. On that day, Ning Fan was not the only one who entered the extreme Dan sacred region. Most of the people who entered were searching for medicinal herbs in the outer region. However, there might be others who took the risk to enter the inner region. Your Excellency, you have been staring at the pill scrolls. Could it be that you are short of money and can't take out any pills that are not rejected to trade? The shopkeeper frowned. Of course, I can take out some pills. However, I don't know if your pavilion has any thought fragmentation rank spiritual beast carriages for sale. If you do, I am willing to exchange them with 9 transformations golden pills of equivalent value. Ning Fan smiled. 9 transformations golden pills. You want to use 9 transformations golden pills to exchange for thought fragmentation rank spiritual beast carriages? The shopkeeper was slightly shocked and extremely tempted. When a pill reached the 9 transformations golden pill rank, even the ancient experts would not be able to look down on it. His thought fragmentation rank was naturally moved. Unfortunately, after a while, the shopkeeper could only smile bitterly. Our pavilion has a rule that spiritual beast carriages of thought fragmentation rank and above cannot be sold to external cultivators. This old man does not dare to violate this rule. If it wasn't because of this rule, those external cultivators who spent a lot of money in the past wouldn't only be able to buy space-shedding spiritual beast carriages. Ning Fan's eyes slightly narrowed when he heard the shopkeeper's words. Indeed, there were many external cultivators who came to buy spiritual beast carriages to enter the middle state. Forget it. If that's the case, I won't make things difficult for you. I just want to buy a space-shedding spiritual beast carriage. In the end, Ning Fan spent 29 transformation silver pills to buy the best space-shedding spiritual beast carriage and left this small town at the border. After Ning Fan and his group left, the shopkeeper did not say anything and sent a report back to his clan. The report only contained a short paragraph. The 14th batch of external cultivators entered the middle state. There was only one person. His cultivation base was limited by the ancient times and his body could not sense lightning. This person didn't come for the immemorial lightning cauldron, but we still have to be careful. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Ning Fan, who had already boarded the spiritual beast carriage to the north, suddenly opened his eyes and withdrew the rain sense that he left in the Thunder Sound Pavilion. The report that the shopkeeper sent back to his clan was still seen by Ning Fan. I am the 14th batch of external cultivators who entered the middle state. Who are the first 13 batches? Nguyen Air and the others must have entered the middle state together. They are considered as the same batch. Other than that, who are the other external cultivators? Flying Thunder Immortal King, Battle Rhino Immortal King, Maha Sek's disciple, Qin Xiansha. The people of the dark race and the thought-shattering old monsters who were famous in the eastern heaven. I heard that the Supreme Pill's sacred region will be opened for the last time this time. There must be quite a number of famous old monsters who entered the place. It's not strange that some of them came straight for the middle state. However, the shopkeeper of the Thunder Sound Pavilion deliberately mentioned that there was no lightning in his body. What does that mean? Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly solemn. Somehow, he recalled the day when Great Emperor Chongha used a mysterious Yin lightning to scheme against him. If he had taken the Yin lightning away because of his greed that day, perhaps the cultivators of the Thunder Sound Pavilion would have found out about the lightning in his body today. I can't rule out this possibility. If I'm not mistaken, the cunning and far-sighted Great Emperor Chongha has actually planned this until today. Also, what is the immemorial lightning cauldron that was mentioned in the report? It seems like the Thunder Sound Pavilion is guarding against the external cultivators who have designs on the immemorial lightning cauldron. Have you heard of the immemorial lightning cauldron? Ning Fan sat outside the spirit beast carriage and asked Duo Lan, who was in the carriage, through the curtains while driving the carriage. The immemorial lightning cauldron is one of the treasured cauldrons that the sacred ancestor used when he was still alive. He had a total of 9 cauldrons in his life. The immemorial lightning cauldron is the first among all the cauldrons. It was refined by the sacred ancestor using the lightning of the eastern mountain. He also took all the spiritual materials from the sea area of the 4 sects and fused them into the cauldron. Duo Lan explained. What is the eastern mountain lightning? Which 4 sects are the sea area of the 4 sects? Ning Fan asked in surprise. He did not understand a single word that she said. I also don't know. These words are all recorded in the scriptures. However, I heard from my father that the materials used by the sacred ancestor to refine the cauldron were all taken from his hometown. My father said that it's a world that is completely different from the world we live in. The lightning of the eastern mountain and the sea area of the 4 sects are all things from that world. Duo Lan said with a yearning expression. She did not understand the concepts of the true world and the illusory dream world, but Ning Fan already had some understanding of them. Judging from this immemorial lightning cauldron was a magic treasure that the sacred ancestor refined using the materials of the true world, the medicinal cauldron used by the sacred ancestor. According to Duo Lan's words, the herb gatherer saint had a total of 9 cauldrons in his life. The immemorial lightning cauldron was ranked first. Other than that, there were 8 other cauldrons. The sect master of the Pills sect had once obtained the Great Wilderness Cauldron in the Supreme Pills sacred region. That Great Wilderness Cauldron was so powerful. I wonder if it was one of the 9 cauldrons of the sacred ancestor. No matter whether it was or not, it was indeed a pity that the Great Wilderness Cauldron was destroyed. Speaking of which, this Supreme Pills sacred region was really full of treasures. After the sacred ancestor died, his will turned into a sacred mountain to preserve his belongings. His flames turned into the fire spirit clan to guard the seal of 2 realms. The medicinal cauldron he left behind was also a rare treasure. The corpse of the medicine slave he left behind was the target of Zhang Yu's possession this time. Speaking of which, I still don't know the name of the herb gatherer saint. After I came to Great Bay, I have read through many ancient books. However, I only saw titles such as Extreme Pill Old Man and Medicine Ancestor. They seem to be fabricated and unreliable. Do you know the name of your sacred ancestor? Ning Fan asked casually. He did not expect Duo Lan to know the name. However, Duo Lan's delicate body shuddered as if she really knew the name. It was as if she recalled the scene when her father brought her into the stone path's secret realm with a stern face and told her the coordinates of the 7 stone seats. She could still hear the strange illusory voice of the 10,000 corpses chanting scriptures in front of the stone seats. Medicine Saint of the South, Medicine Saint of the South. Yes. It's the Medicine Saint of the South. Nan Zhanggu chanted the Tao spirit to perish, 1 decade into desolation, 10,000 chants into antiquity, a sword came from the west, samsara split, forever lost and converted to the Medicine Saint of the South. Duo Lan muttered to herself. Suddenly, tears welled up in her eyes. She thought of her father. Even that father of hers rarely gave her any warmth and care. Moreover, they rarely met each other. At that time, she could not understand the guilt and helplessness in her father's eyes. Now, she understood. What are you chanting? What is it? Ning Fan was inwardly shocked. Just as Duo Lan opened her mouth, he felt a slight pain in his sea of consciousness. Then, layers of illusions appeared in his eyes. Even though the illusions were dispelled with just a thought, they still gave him a hint of fear. He was very sure. Duo Lan, who was in the carriage, did not use any illusory technique on him. She did not even deliberately circulate her magic power. She just chanted a paragraph of words. However, this paragraph of words actually gave him a hint of confusion, giving him a feeling that he could not extricate himself from it. He could not resist it. These few sentences were definitely not simple. How could ordinary words bewitch a foolly cultivator like this? I also don't know what these words are. I only know that all the corpses in the Stone Tao secret realm chanted the same words. They chanted numbly and emotionlessly. It's very scary. Very scary. My father said that this is a forbidden place that we can't touch. Duo Lan suddenly felt drowsy. She directly leaned against the carriage and fell asleep. It was as if just uttering that sentence had exhausted all of her mental strength, making her feel extremely exhausted. 10,000 recitations, 1 decade into desolation. Ning Fan's expression became slightly solemn. Duo Lan slept for an entire day before she woke up. In just a day's time, Ning Fan had already driven a spiritual beast carriage. They traveled towards the north for an immeasurable distance. Duo Lan rubbed her sleepy eyes, feeling a little apologetic. She actually fell asleep just like that. She should be helping Ning Fan to watch the road. After all, he was not familiar with the Middle State and there were many rules that he did not know much about. One should know that the cultivators of the Middle State built their cities and resided there. Therefore, their possessiveness towards their territories was not ordinary. Putting aside those small cities, the middle-sized cities had their own territories. They did not allow cultivators to get close to them casually. If Ning Fan continues to travel to the north and bumps into the territories of some city lords, it would be troublesome. She should be helping Senior to watch the road. How could she fall asleep? Besides, Senior is the one driving the carriage. No matter what, I, a soul-locking slave, should be the one driving the carriage. Speaking of which, why is it so noisy outside? It's as if there are many carriages and horses chasing after their carriage. You're awake. Ning Fan's tone did not seem to be in a good mood. Could it be that he is blaming me for falling asleep? Duo Lan immediately became a little worried. She wanted to explain the reason why she fell asleep. It was because she had misread those words. However, she suddenly heard faint curses coming from behind, interrupting her words. How dare you! You've trespassed on the territory of our 1,000-army city. Quickly stop the carriage and accept our punishment. Stop the carriage. Our Golden Thunder City has been chasing after you for a day and a night. If you continue to run, don't blame us for being merciless. Shoot him with arrows. Quick. Stop him with the formation flags. Damn it. We can't stop him. This man is so strong. A rain of arrows flew towards the carriage. However, all of them were burned to ashes by Ning Fan's devil flames. Formation flags flew into the sky and sprinkled down formation light, trying to slightly stop the carriage from moving forward. However, they were extinguished by Ning Fan's finger. We can't stop him. We can't stop him. There were at least 12 cultivators from the middle city chasing after the carriage. However, none of them could stop the carriage from moving forward. Ning Fan was in a very bad mood. He was driving the carriage perfectly fine, but he was scolded and chased for no reason. Moreover, the number of people chasing after him was like a rolling snowball. It was really annoying. If it wasn't for the fact that this place was the middle state, which was the territory of the despicable people, he would have taught the people behind him a lesson even if he didn't kill them. Senior, what's going on with these people? Duolan was somewhat speechless. She lifted the curtain and walked out of the carriage. It seemed like Ning Fan's bad mood was not because of her. I don't know. It seems like they are here to pick a fight. Ning Fan said impatiently. Senior, you misunderstood. It's not them who are looking for trouble. It's you who trespassed into their territory and violated a taboo. Duolan wanted to explain, but she had no way to explain, so she could only smile bitterly. You are familiar with the middle state. You should know which remote place is sparsely populated. Show me the way. Duolan's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Senior is impatient and wants to find a desolate place to kill these small fries? She seems to know the truth, Senior, actually. It's our fault first. It's not good to kill people. Duolan said cautiously. We are in the wrong first. What did we do wrong? Ning Fan was surprised. We trespassed into their territory. I have been walking on the official road between the cities and did not step into anyone's territory. Ning Fan said with a frown. Even the official road belongs to the middle city's territory. If you want to cross the border, you have to pay a certain amount of gold and silver. Oh, so that's why. I don't have any gold and silver. Ning Fan shook his head disapprovingly. It seemed like there were people who wanted to stop him and ask for gold and silver along the way, but they were all ignored by him. I do. Duolan smiled bitterly. Then should we pay now? It's too late to pay now. Duolan continued to smile bitterly. Then let's find a remote place. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light, causing Duolan to hurriedly wave her hand in fright. Don't. Senior, please don't kill people. It's not good to kill people. Duolan clenched her teeth. These people were her compatriots. If they were killed by Ning Fan just because they wanted to collect toll fees, it would be too unjust. Although the behavior of these middle city cultivators was indeed a little overbearing and deserved a lesson, I will deal with this matter. Duolan calmed herself down and asked Ning Fan to stop the carriage. Then, she returned to her usual cold attitude. As soon as the carriage stopped, the carriages behind them caught up and surrounded the carriage. A few middle city cultivators who were the loudest were preparing to teach Ning Fan a lesson. However, when they suddenly met Ning Fan's cold eyes, they were so frightened that they could not speak a word. What kind of murderous gaze was that? They seemed to have kicked an iron plate. Unfortunately, they did not notice that Ning Fan, who was driving the carriage, was so terrifying. Otherwise, they would only be fools to chase after them all the way here. Do you have something to say to me? Ning Fan said indifferently. The few middle city cultivators immediately retreated. They were panicking. It was hard to get off the tiger. Fortunately, Duolan appeared at this moment. I am Holy Maiden Chu Lai. Why are you chasing after my carriage? Could it be that you want to attack me? Hiss, the middle city cultivators' faces turned pale with fright. The carriage driver in front of them was already very scary. They did not expect that the other woman in the carriage was even scarier. Holy Maiden Chu Lai. This woman was actually the Holy Maiden of Chu Lai's lineage. She was an existence that even the 5 emperors of the middle state would not dare to offend. They had really kicked an iron plate. Each of the pursuers was sweating profusely. A few of the older cultivators even recognized Duolan's appearance. After confirming Duolan's identity, they immediately begged for mercy. We dare not. How would we dare to attack the Holy Maiden? Please forgive us, Holy Maiden. What are you waiting for? Duo Lan shouted. The group of pursuers who were scared out of their wits immediately scattered like birds and beasts. The trouble was solved so easily. Duo Lan heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Ning Fan did not give them the chance to kill them. Ning Fan looked at Duo Lan with a puzzled expression. I didn't expect you to be such a kind person, of course not. It's Senior's kindness that allowed them to live. Duo Lan put on a fake smile. Inwardly, she thought that her lying skills were getting better and better. She could even flatter Ning Fan against her will. Suddenly, she realized that she had unknowingly let go of her reservations after spending so much time with Ning Fan. That was why she could flatter Ning Fan so shamelessly. If she has her guard up, she should be careful with her words and actions. She would not even dare to flatter Ning Fan. Unknowingly, she was no longer as afraid of him as she was in the beginning. Ning Fan did not pry into the changes in Duo Lan's mind. He was happy to have less trouble. If it wasn't necessary, he would also be too lazy to kill them. He sighed with emotion. I didn't expect your identity as the Holy Maiden to be so useful. If it's me who is an external cultivator or a cultivator from the southern border like Xianyu Chun, I'm sure those people won't retreat so easily even if they are afraid of you, of course. In front of Senior, my identity is naturally nothing. However, in the Middle State, even the 5 emperors of the Middle State are not willing to offend the dignified Holy Maiden Chu Lai, let alone the cultivators of the Middle City. However, in the Holy Mountain, the identity of the Holy Maiden is nothing. Duo Lan said the first half of her sentence proudly but the second half sounded bitter. Currently, she was already nothing in the Holy Mountain, oh? Even the 5 emperors of the Middle State don't dare to offend you. Ning Fan was surprised. It seemed like he had underestimated this woman from the beginning to the end. Of course, they don't dare to offend me openly. However, I don't know about them secretly. After all, they are also proud and arrogant immortal emperors. If they are forced into a corner, who knows what they will do. Speaking of which, if Senior has any troubles in the Middle State, why don't you let me settle them for you? It's my honor to be able to help Senior a little. If I don't help you, you will kill the innocent. Duo Lan thought to herself. If you can help me with many things, it can indeed save me a lot of trouble. Thank you very much. Ning Fan nodded. If it could reduce some troubles, Ning Fan would certainly agree. Thus, the spiritual beast carriage continued to the north. Occasionally, it would crash into the territories of other middle cities. However, Duo Lan would reveal her identity and scare them away. Thus, there was no conflict. Another day passed and Duo Lan realized that something was wrong. The direction Ning Fan was traveling in was obviously the 100 Flowers Peak of the 5 Fingers Peak in the Middle State. If we go any further, it will be the territory of the 100 Flowers Grand Emperor. She has yet to recover from her serious injuries. Her territory has already been sealed and no one is allowed to pass through. Duo Lan explained. 100 Flowers Grand Emperor. Ning Fan's expression turned slightly solemn. Just now, there was clearly an extremely strong but also extremely weak spirit sense that scanned the carriage. Could it be the owner of this place, the 100 Flowers Grand Emperor? The people I am looking for are here. With your identity, you should be able to enter this place, right? Ning Fan asked. Yes, I can. If Senior must enter this place, you can enter with me. However, this matter might be a little troublesome. Forget it. It's not a big deal anyway. Duo Lan was a little hesitant. However, she still bit her lips and nodded in the end. The carriage continued to advance for a while and was stopped. If they continued further, it would be the boundary of the 100 Flowers Peak. According to the order of the 100 Flowers Grand Emperor, the area within a 1,000 li radius of the 100 Flowers Peak is listed as a forbidden area. Ordinary people are not allowed to enter. A group of strong men blocked the road. I am Chu Lai, Duo Lan. I have something to do here. Duo Lan walked out of the carriage and said indifferently. Immediately, the strong men in the area sucked in a cold breath. A moment later, they burst into laughter. Good. 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 Since Saintess Duolan is here, of course, you can enter the 100 Flowers Peak. We have been waiting for you for a long time. However, Saintess, you better think it through. It's easy to come to my 100 Flowers Peak, but it won't be so easy to leave. I have thought it through. Why are you still not giving way? Duolan shouted. The strong men immediately gave way to a path that led straight to the 100 Flowers Peak. The 100 Flowers Peak was one of the 5 Fingers Peaks in the Middle State. It was also where the 100 Flowers Grand Emperor's abode was located. Could this be considered as revisiting an old place? When she was young, she had come to the 100 Flowers Peak. At that time, she followed her father to bully others. That year, she had made countless enemies. Her overbearing father.